Hello, friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Play Along Podcast, the podcast where we play through games. And in today's episode, we are here with the penultimate episode of 1000xRESIST. And I feel like I say this at the beginning of every episode, but shit really is hitting the fan. Like things get crazy in this episode, and I'm super excited to get into it. I'm your host, Jared, and I'm joined by Kai and Ben as always. Gentlemen, how are you doing? And for our video watchers, you can see Kai is in his new house. Woo! We moved.
Yay, we moved. Well, okay. Well, moving is a process, and we're still at the beginning of that process.
All your shit is in your house, and that's all that
Most
really
of my
matters.
shit is in my house.
Okay, well.
Some of it's in a storage unit still. We're not going to talk about those things, though. But yes, I've
Are
moved.
you glad the ordeals are over?
Yeah, I definitely under anticipated how devastating this would be to my mental health and life in general. So I do not handle change well, and I'm a very homebody, and so uprooting my entire life was I've been slowly clawing at the walls trying to get my life together, but we're getting there. It's one step at a time. Gonna do some cleaning today, and hopefully that will bring back the sanity.
Bring back some joy. Yeah, me and Kai are the freaks that find joy in cleaning.
Yes, definitely.
I'm laughing because it's like, bro didn't even move that far. Like, God forbid he
Dude,
ever
honestly,
leaves
like
the
5 minutes from his house.
country
It was like so close.
No, I know. I was talking to my therapist about this, but there's that meme of like the wolf, and it's like forage for food in the forest, then it's like the domesticated dog, and it's like ate a piece of cheese and has diarrhea. I am that dog. I am the ate a piece of cheese and had diarrhea. My adaptability to any situation is at an all-time low. I need complete consistency and routine, or my entire life falls apart. So that's what I learned, is that I'm not well adapted to moving, and that I should probably just stay in one place. But
and I wasn't compared to like cats, because like our cats were also like my cats.
No, my
had
cats
a hard
are
time.
My
Your
cats
were
thriving.
Fine. Yeah, your cats were fine. They're just chilling.
They're really stunting on me right now. They're like, this is great. I'm like, I fucking hate all of you. I should have been locked in one room for a week to acclimate. I should have been just delivered meals and be like, are you okay, sweetie? Like,
just hissing and hiding in closets.
How are you, Jared?
I'm doing good. Somehow Ben and I'm on the tail end of it, but somehow we both threw our back outs. Mine not involved in helping Kai move. Some other probably more embarrassing reason that I don't know, but we're here
40 times in a row, most likely.
Yeah.
I was gonna say nothing's more embarrassing than throwing out sneezing, bro.
Yeah, you'd think I would do it since I canonically have sneezed.
No, are you kidding me? Your sneezing muscles are insane.
That's true.
You got yacked sneeze muscles from fucking years of abusive allergies that are just...
seasonal allergies, baby. Let's go. I knew there was a good thing for them. One positive, if anything, for my seasonal allergies. But we are not alone today. We have a guest that I'm very excited to bring on this episode specifically to talk about this game specifically. But everybody give a warm welcome to Rick Firestone from Pixel Project Radio. Ben is left, but it's okay because we have Rick here. Rick, how you doing, man?
I'll do my best to take Ben's place.
There you go.
How you fellas doing?
Oh,
no, that was bad.
Are you here?
Don't tell Ben that I did that.
It's okay. He edits the podcast, but it's okay. Yes, Rick, great to have you on the podcast again, man. How you doing?
Yeah, dude, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see all of you fellas. I am doing well. I did not expect to replay this game, but I'm glad that I did. I'm having a great time. Yeah, terrific game. I can't wait to talk about this section in particular. I think these are the most important chapters in the game.
I mean, honestly, from playing it seems like it. Oh, Kai's face.
Who's to say whose opinion he agrees or disagrees with on this podcast?
Rick might have listened to the last episode and needed to take a cleanse from the player from
my voice
for a little bit.
Kai is passionate. He's a passionate guy.
That's true. That's what they say about me. Passion.
And we love you. Regardless of what they say about you on Reddit, Kai, you are a passionate person. So
no, they say it about him on the streets too.
I hope not. I don't know what streets you're on, but dear God.
But I hope not. I hope no one's talking about you in the streets. But Rick, it has been a minute since you've been on the podcast. So for any of our new listeners, or from people that don't know about you and Pixel Project Radio, I want to give you a chance to kind of talk about your show and kind of what you do over there.
Yeah, sure. That is the name, Pixel Project Radio, as you said. It's you know, it's not dissimilar to this podcast where you go
Mm,
through the beat by beat narrative of games. It's a bit more condensed. We don't do quite as many episodes as you all,
yeah.
so it's a little more condensed in that way. But we still lean into the same style of analysis that you all like to do over here, and similar types of games. You know, I
Yeah.
we have done an episode on this. Um, However, I think that we might get more into this, but I'm kind of I kind of don't agree with a lot of what I said back then. Um,
Yeah. We've been there.
yeah, yeah, that's just how it goes in this thing. But a lot of similar stuff: Final Fantasy Tactics, Clair
Yeah.
Obscur, Outer Wilds, a lot of stuff like that. I would venture a guess that if folks like your show, there's a pretty
Hmm.
large center of the Venn diagram of folks that would like both. So if you are curious, wherever you're listening to this fine show, listen to all of this show first, all of the play along backlog. You've got to eat your vegetables to grow strong, et cetera, et cetera. Then you can branch out to
Yeah.
other shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of play along backlog. But yes, everyone, if you haven't, please go check out Rick over at Pixel Project Radio. I listened to enough of the 1000 xRESIST where I'm not going to be spoiled on new stuff because I was really interested in the story, but I also really wanted to hear his takes, and it's such a good conversation. Matt Storm's on that episode, Dave Jackson from Tales from the Backlog. It's so good. I'm excited to go back and like listen to your guys' opinions on some of the things as it continues. So,
Three of the most phenomenal
Uh,
names in
oh no.
podcasting.
Is that-
Well, it's more so. It's more so. I went back and re-listened to a lot of it too, and I'm listening
Yeah.
to some of the stuff that I said, and I'm kind of cringing and wincing. It's like,
Mm,
oh man, but it's one of those games, right? It's one of those games that's not dissimilar to a novel or a
yeah.
symphony or a film or whatever, where you can go back at different stages of life, or even one, two, three viewings right after each other, and you pull something different from it. It's just that kind of a
Yeah.
game. Um,
And
as compared to something like, I don't know, Spec Ops: The Line. Well, it's not. You guys
yeah.
covered Kentucky Route Zero and Disco
Yeah.
Elysium. It's in the same exact vein as
Yeah.
those two.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just and I have this with a couple of our episodes that I've gone back and done like re-listens too, where it's like hindsight kind of changes some of my opinions and even time too. Like a lot of games that I was kind of like had a lot of friction with as time had gone by. Like I think Chrono Trigger is a great example. I know everyone at home put your tally marks for Chrono Trigger mentioned in the podcast. Everyone take a shot.
Well, well,
Uh
even still, one thing that I was thinking of as we're playing this, and
yeah.
like this is such a travesty that, Ben, I wouldn't be surprised if you know all about this, but replaying this section in particular now as you can ask me to retake this if you would like, and I won't.
Mm,
I have no problems with that. But replaying this section in particularly as the government is executing dissenters
mm,
hits
yep.
different.
Oh,
Mm.
for sure. Playing this like during the modern time of with the government and everything that's happening with the riots that are going on now, it does. It hits differently, and you're going in with a different perspective than when you were play. When did you end up? When did you play through this? Did you play through this around launch?
Yeah, my first playthrough was at launch.
Yeah,
Is pretty much immediately when I saw it. I was at least, I mean, visually it's striking.
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, this sounds great. And then I replayed through it for the first time. So second playthrough before we recorded, and I don't know, 2024, January
Yeah.
2024, and then third time for this. I haven't finished yet. I got to chapter X, as it's called, but
Mm.
Oh
Yeah,
shit!
not that the world hasn't been falling apart for the last couple of years, but
Mhm.
now more so than ever, the events in 1000 xRESIST feel very prominent to world events that are happening now.
Yeah, we're on a steady decline into insanity on a constant basis. So
So
yeah.
hopefully our podcast can bring you joy, although we'll be talking about very similar things here. So I know maybe this is not the one.
Maybe you listen to video game podcasts to escape. Not this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go find a
I
fun
mean-
draft. Listen to our tier list episode. Those are the fun ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, Rick, because like you were saying about like obviously being in the UK and stuff, and obviously things are very much crazy in the States at the moment. Do you know what the thing is? It's not all right. Okay, we do it in our own way, but it's not too dissimilar over here.
Yeah.
We've got like Facebook groups of people whose sole job is to find out where asylum seekers are being held, in which hotels, and to go and protest in front of those hotels and to attempt to smash
kidding.
the doors and get to
Wow.
the asylum seekers and forcibly drag them. Like it's not much different here in the in the UK.
You're talking about the original racists, you know?
Yeah,
we just
yeah.
we have imported ones.
The original
They got the OG
Crazy.
ones.
you know,
Yeah.
so but it is interesting, and I think it's kind of like Jared said, is like something that's interesting about video games is like I literally just come off the back of recording my Get Wrecked with Kate, and we were talking about the
Oh,
Art of
nice.
Escape,
Oh,
and
such a good game.
was talking about like how that kind of impacted me at that time, because it's all about self-discovery and like
Yeah.
sort of being comfortable with yourself and who you are and expressing yourself as yourself, and like what that meant to me at the time that I played it. And the same as this game, like, you know, we're playing it now with all of this kind of political backdrop. It's gonna hit different. Well, it's probably gonna hit just a bit deeper, but like I think
Yeah.
the same kind of messages are still there.
Much different too. And Kai actually sort of with that one pithy comment got to the heart of this. Like the original, well, the original racist. Like this game's thesis, if you have to boil it down, is the effects. How to phrase it? The interpretation of the past and its consequences on the present. Right? You
Yeah.
had said like, yeah, the original racist. That's because we're not choosing to confront our past and
Yeah.
reflect on it, and that's throughout this entire game. That keeps coming up again and again, more so in these chapters. This is where it becomes the most focused, I think, up
Yeah.
until this point it's been. But that's exactly it. If we looked back to to the original racists, and into our history where this happens again and again,
Yeah.
and chose to reflect on it, and rather than either run from it or take the emotional path and just either lash out or whatever, maybe we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But could have, would have, should have, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's just great for this episode and this conversation because we had joked about video game podcasts being a way of dissociating from the crazy world events that are happening, and this being very similar. But like Rick said, I feel like this can almost give you kind of like a reflective perspective too. And I don't know, for me at least, that's a little bit comforting having that kind of reflective perspective, because I mean, and like you said, in these chapters specifically, there is a lot of like the diversity between these people that are all essentially the same person. You could see how, like you said, the original races and everything like that, how those things can still happen within one person that was cloned multiple times too, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Should we jump into? You had a look like you had a point.
We'll get into it.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into it. Let's do some housekeeping. After that we're gonna talk to Rick about his history and some high thoughts of the stuff before this, and then we'll get into this section. So whether this is your first episode or your 294th episode, that's right, I prepped beforehand. No need to look it up. I came prepared, podcaster. Welcome to Play Along Podcast, the podcast where we play through games in a book club format. What we do is the three of us will each take turns choosing a game. We then break the game down into sections and come together every other week to talk about those sections specifically. Same with, if you've been listening to the 1000xRESIST, we are going full spoilers for this. So just keep that in mind. In anything that we are playing, we dive deep into the narrative and the conversations about that. So, if you want, you can grab the game, join the conversation, and you can play along with us. On top of that, we also have another side series on the show called Get Wrecked, where we grab a guest from the internet and swap video game recommendations. Ben had mentioned it, but this month's episode, I think this is talking about me being prepared. Yeah. Next week's episode, Ben is going to be joined by Kate from No Small Games, where they're going to be talking about The Artful Escape and Grun. Okay, I was looking into this. I was like, what is this game? This little like weird like 3D gnome game. It's crazy.
All I'm gonna say is it's a game about gardening. Okay. And it's a game
tells me
it's
not all about gardening. Something tells me it's not only about gardening.
If you liked the puzzle solving kind of dynamics of the Outer Wilds, where everything was very sequenced.
Interesting.
Then Grun's interesting.
You can't throw those buzzwords around, Ben, and not get me immediately interested. You can't say Outer Wilds and have me not immediately want to purchase this game.
It exceeded all expectations I had for it.
Okay, call me. I saw what you guys were putting it down. It's $12.99 on Steam right now, so that's not bad.
It's a very interesting experience.
Color me intrigued for sure. Yeah, this game looks wild. What the heck?
It's based on so basically it's made by a guy who had like a Dutch granddad who like had like a really lovely garden, and it's basically based off all this like European folklore. And the premise is essentially you get paid to go and tend to this housekeeper's garden, but you get there and the housekeeper's absent, and then you start gardening and things happen, and not everything is as it seems.
What does this art style remind me of?
I was trying to also pin that, but I couldn't figure out what the art style is. It's like
so familiar, and I don't know what it is familiar for. Anyway, it's like weird because it's like because there's a lot of games that were made with the like PSX, PS1 like graphics kind of thing,
it's
but
like
it's not quite
pixel graphics.
it's not quite that. There's some like wiggliness to it that is so familiar that I can't place, but looks very interesting.
It's an interesting game.
It's gonna be my 2026 Kai quote. There's something wiggly about it that looks.
There's something wiggly about it that looks interesting. The other interesting thing is that in the similar games I've played section is Peak and Sons of the Forest, which
Peak. Okay, wait, hold on. You had me in the first half, but you lost.
I don't know how those two things connect at all. But
I guess there are some underlying themes in Sons of the Forest that could be present in Grun. Peak, no, not whatsoever. It's not friend slop. It's not even like multiplayer as far as I know. So I don't know where that
you play a small creature.
The Lord's work by just being like, hey, here's some games that you play.
I think it's the Peak team pushing Peak propaganda, which I'm here for. I'm here for. It's like Battlefield 6 recommended games Peak. And what? I don't.
Big friend slop.
Big friend slop. It is friend slop.
Big friend slop.
But with that, I say let's get into this episode because these 3 chapters, although only 3 chapters, are quite long and there's a lot of information to cover here. So let's jump right into it. I do want to start first by passing the mic over to Rick because I want to know again your history, which you touched on a little bit earlier on in the episode. Some of your first impressions with 1000xRESIST, and if you have any high level thoughts on any events or characters leading up to the sections that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I already went through the history. I don't need to recount that. My first impressions, it's funny, when you first play through something, some level of trust needs to exist. And this is a new studio. They're unfamiliar, and it immediately starts not only with an in medias res opening, but with a lot of cryptic language and something that at least I often perceive, I'm sure a lot of you do too, Kai, maybe in particular, when you get indie games or writers that do something like that and you're unfamiliar with them, it can come off as trying to be deep for the sake of being deep. It can have this artificiality, this sense of shallowness. And that's where I kind of was at first. But that level of trust, like as you go through the game, especially like up to these areas, like the last chapter, these chapters, that level of trust built. I loved this game basically as soon as I got up to here. I really, really liked it prior to as well. That trust got built up a little bit more. I think it really is masterful in the same way that Kentucky Route Zero and Disco are. I'm not saying that those are all equal. I mean, what does that even mean anyway? But it's the same sort of experience where you can go back and revisit it multiple times and learn new things and glean new things. I think it is incredibly focused as a whole. I think that it takes risks that you don't see in a lot of games. I think the interdisciplinary collaboration of theatricality and games is something that you don't see a whole lot, which is why I think getting those quote unquote outsiders that are theater, like performing artists, to make a game like this, they're not haunted by the shadow of the Jack and Daxters and the God of Wars and all of the big video games, JRPGs, whatever, and they were able to make something wholly unique. That's one of the biggest reasons I think this game succeeds. And yeah, as a whole, like going back through this time, I'm interpreting things a little bit differently. I'm learning new things and reading things a bit differently. Interpretations are crazy different. I was totally wincing at some of the stuff that I had said and some of the stuff that I have in my notes from the last time that we did this. It's crazy. It's just one of those games. I love it. I cannot wait to talk through these chapters with you.
I mean, Matt had said something similar where you know, playing through these sections now in hindsight, you have the bigger picture already, and you can kind
Mm.
of grab a lot of the contextual stuff that gets brought up earlier that you don't really know about because you don't have the full picture, which is, I think is cool. I think it's a cool way of like re-experiencing a video game, especially if you're I'm assuming you just played through these 3 chapters, right? You didn't do the full front to back, or did you start from the beginning?
No, I went from the beginning, and now I'm
Oh,
at
awesome.
chapter 10.
Let's go. Let's go. Rick doing the Lord's
It
work over
wasn't.
here.
It wasn't until you said it, Rick, that I kind of realized like the scene that we discussed last time, where the Watcher confronts the All Mother.
Mm.
Like that was I didn't. It was theatrical, but I meant it when I thought it, I meant it was theatrical, as in like it was like kind of like shocking and like, but it is like it's almost like fucking Shakespearean, like the way that everything's kind of set up, and she's like confronting her while she's got her back to her, and it is kind of you can see it almost like being on a stage
On a
or
stage.
something. Like yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of really good blocking here. And some of the scenes are set up just like you would see like on a stage, where an aside will happen off on stage left, and then the spotlight is on whoever's monologuing in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like if Kentucky Route Zero is poetry, this game is theater, and then disco is literally everything. But that's another conversation.
Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
so
didn't
much
really-
so where there's an actual like theater. There's a play that happens in one of these chapters too, which I
Yeah.
thought was kind of
Oh,
like,
hilarious!
meta.
Their acting
Yeah.
is terrible. It's so funny.
Yeah. The idea of being like intentionally bad at acting, I think, is a very fun. Like it landed for me, which is funny. Yeah, the first thing, which we didn't cover at the end of last chapter that we did, we had the whole chapter 5 psych out ending, and so we kind of ended it there. We didn't talk about those sections, so we'll briefly touch on that. Not much happens in terms of the whole picture that we're going through in that chapter, but we pop back up in the orchard. Everything's kind of red and everything's kind of spooky, and you're essentially trying to leave the orchard. That's at the time is what it seems like. You're doing the whole zip to the rings to try to get out of the orchard. I know there's a conversation you can have with yourself in there. There's another watcher that's in there, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I played that, so I don't remember the actual conversation that happens there too. But I don't know. Did you guys have any? I remember when we were talking about this specifically, Kai was frustrated that the little zippy points had come back again, which they come back in this section as well. So, but
So many zippy points in this game.
Yeah.
Still not a fan of the zippy points, but I'm getting over it.
Yeah. I think I liked them this time in particular because even in the beginning when they had first come up, the environment felt like a fractured mind to me, and very much so now. It's what that feels like.
I mean, look, the zippy points at least make it quicker to navigate around a space that we've already been in a million times. So I will give you that, like, okay, zippy points convenient because you can go directly to the
Love our name for
waterfall.
them.
Whatever, I don't know what the fuck they're called. The
Yeah.
remnant orbs. There, that's a more of a fun science fiction name. But they take you directly to where you need to go. It still isn't very clear that you need to go in the waterfall with like the 4 original sisters and the one with blood on it. Like, it took me a second to like figure out where I needed to go, but I did appreciate that at least I didn't have to like keep running around.
I think if you have the conversation with your other self, they say about going. They're like, "I'll go to the others."
Yeah, well, no, I know what they say, and I did read it. I was just, I was like, okay, like the time to go, and then like because the waterfall is like tucked against the wall in the circle, like you can just kind of go around without really seeing it if you don't turn left. I also did appreciate that now the like what are we calling them? The clicky things, whatever they are. They do.
Was the proper name you came up with?
Yeah, the remnant orbs. They do change colors once you use them.
Yes,
so like that is useful, and especially in later sections, which we'll get into, where there's like more of a navigation that you're using with them, where you're going different sections, which like actually like more. It's useful to see like where you had come from and where you have yet to go, which I thought was a nice addition.
Absolutely. But at the end of this, we're under the impression as the player that Watcher has left the orchard. I mean, it's again visually different than what we had seen before, so we don't know to the extent of if this is actually reality or not. But that's kind of what we got the understanding of.
Yes.
chapter 6 starts very different. very very different, and I'm really curious to, as we kind of set up chapter 6 here, to get your guys' impressions on kind of what you thought was happening, because we begin and we're not Watcher. We are kind of one of the what they call here miscellaneous, but we've seen versions of them previously where they were kind of the gray versions of Iris that
Mm.
all had different colors that were where their specialties lie, whether they're a
But
Watcher, healer,
these are those
fixer.
without those specialities, though. It was my
Correct.
understanding. They're ones who haven't yet specialized in a field.
Yes.
Miscellaneous.
Yes, the miscellaneous. So not only are we playing as presumably a different character at this point, we are in a very different location. This is like a city. There's
Like a
neon
Neo
lights
Tokyo
everywhere.
or
Yeah, like a
something.
neon Tokyo kind of situation. I'll pass it over to you, Ben, first. Kind of what were your like some of your impressions here? Because I was immediately confused trying to piece together what was happening.
Um, I think initially my first impression was that this was some sort of dream or something. It's a
Yeah.
really strange comparison, but I compared it almost to like in Assassin's Creed where you go in the machine and
Mhm.
the idea is there's
Yeah,
memories and
like an
DNA.
animus kind of situation.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
my kind of feeling was like, oh, so like was a section we just played part of like some sort of memory that was in the DNA of like a clone or whatever, or is it some sort of hive mind? Is there like a
Yeah.
collection where all of the kind of the miscellaneous or whoever know what's happening? I really didn't know. I think my first initial assumption was that some part of what we had just played hadn't actually happened and
Mm.
was a dream or something.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Rick, I don't know if do you remember kind of some of your high level thoughts as you were playing this for the first time of what was going on with this narrative?
Oh yeah, I've got my whole notes here from when we first started with
Perfect.
Oh
little
shit, he's taking
color-coded
notes there too.
addendums
Sorry.
for this time
Yeah.
around. Um, I mean, immediately it becomes, well, it depends on what you mean by immediately, because I mean, when
Sure.
you first wake up, it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of like Kamurocho in Yakuza or something.
Mm.
Mm,
But you play for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and two
Yeah.
things became very clear to me. One, this is a class stratification. You
Mm.
have the upper
Yeah.
class literally up on
Above.
the second
Yeah.
floor of the
Yeah.
orchard, and then the commoners all down below, and it's an
Mhm.
authoritarian state, right? And at the time I was more into reading like philosophy than I am now. I still do a little bit, but not so much.
Mm.
This is very clearly, to me anyway, um, Nietzsche has this idea of God being dead, and a lot of folks will misunderstand it as
Mm.
him being like rah rah rah, down with Christianity. But what it really is a question as to if a society was set up and run by the morals through the lens of Christianity, be good to one another, et cetera, and so on. When that is dismantled, what will guide society? That is the ultimate question. And we see that here with the literal
Interesting.
matricide of
Yeah.
Allmother. They literally killed God. This is a JRPG. So where does the
Yeah.
society go from there? Here they go to an authoritarian state. To to quote Jules, misquoting the Bible, the beset on all sides by iniquities and the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
Mm.
That is this new society. It's authoritarian, fascist. It's class stratification. They've abandoned religion and are just focusing on a chokehold of power within the state.
Yeah.
That's
mm.
like 5-10 minutes. You talk to anybody, that's what's going on.
Yeah. And
Can
it
I?
is
Oh,
go for it, Ben.
no, I wanted to add like I don't want to get too political on this, but like
I feel like we've never strayed far from that in the past.
like if we're talking about the kind of like the first 15 minutes of talking to people, etc.,
Sure.
etc., was like it kind of it reminded me of the Third Reich. Like you hear all the stories about like how the kind of like the I mean, I'm big on World War II, like the Night of 1,000 Knives and all of that stuff, like the kind of Nazi takeover where they got rid of all of these political opponents who were basically voicing opposition to the Nazis, and then it was kind of like, well, now we're in charge, and so it
Yeah.
kind of gave this impression of like, well, now the All Mother's gone. There was almost like this power vacuum, and somebody is like basically, I didn't know at the time who that was, but it gave the impression, at least at first it was Principal, has kind of like gone into this power vacuum and basically assumed like total control. And so I was kind of, it made me, I think, kind of go back to that. I was kind of questioning like, well, what actually happened? Like, again, it got me questioning, like, did what we see happen actually happen? Like, was this, and I mean, we'll get into this as like future chapters, but I started to think like, was this a deliberate thing that Principal had been planning? Was this almost like a hostile takeover? Or was this like opportunistic? Did she see an opportunity and kind of like swoop in and take control? But at least it reminded me of like you kind of like Rick said, like a totalitarian, like fascist regime who have like taken a stance and cemented themselves as the kind of rulers of the land, whether people like it or not.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about the, tying it to fascism or authoritarianism is generally for those things to take hold in a meaningful way. There needs to be some sort of villainization of an outgroup, which this game doesn't really have in a meaningful way, which is, once again, to the interesting psychological aspect of a society completely made up of a singular individual with no differing characteristics other than personality. Like, I don't really understand what the outgroup is here, right? Like, what is the delineating factor between someone existing in this city copy that exists and then going to, this next level? What is the,
Well,
Is it not?
what is the ability to maneuver upward? Because they take Blue, who is the character that we're playing as, right? This miscellaneous, and you name yourself. We now exist in a world of individualization rather than the complete conformity of before, which is antithetical in itself to authoritarianism and to fascism, the idea of the individual, right? So like there is a subversion of the expectation in that space. You would expect a fascistic authoritarian regime to be even less identitarian, to be like, we are a whole, and now we have these versions of Iris giving themselves names. And the only reason that she's chosen to move into this new space, the space that we know as, the kind of main hinge point of the game, is because the bartender is murdered. Essentially, that's how this chapter kicks off, right? Is we're working for bartender, who is bartender from the beginning of the game, and now she's a bartender here and there, which is very confusing. She occupies both spaces. She both bartends in the lower city and in the upper place, because they mentioned that. And then she's murdered for seemingly being a dissident against said provisional government that now exists.
I mean, are the miscellaneous not that group that you were mentioning? I mean,
but
you talked about like
you have to just be, yes, but why? And what is the differentiation?
See,
well,
I thought the sisters were the out group. I thought like Bang Bang, Fixer, and stuff like that. They were the group because they represented the old way, and they were the ones that were kind of being ostracized. I mean, you have like the massive. There's like a mural of
Fixer
Watcher where they've put Traitor across it. There's one of Fixer. Like, to me, I think that would. I saw it as like that was the out group. They were very like they were the ones who were responsible in some way for being involved in All Mother's death. They could have stopped and they could have prevented All Mother's death.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: like the society that they live in, and I can't remember who says it, but one of the miscellaneous sisters, I believe, or one of the sisters quotes Marx. She says like, from each, well, they do it in she because everyone's a she in this fucking world, but the quote from Marx is, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. That's the basis of Marxian economics, right? This idea that like you provide what you can and you're given what you need. So like there is no capitalist economic system of repression in this world. It's purely authoritarian. And we can get into obviously this game was made by people who lived in Hong Kong and have very strong opinions about the Chinese government and the things that China is doing in Hong Kong. I have my personal disagreements with how that situation is handled. However, I still am a very proud Marxist and socialist. And so, side swipes against that ideology in general is like, whatever, I get it. Like, you're pissed off that your government exists, whatever. But the point being that, like, why would you have classism in a society with no economy? And what differentiates these people? Because, like, to your point, like, right, you have these dissidents who are fighting against the government, but the miscellaneous, they're not affected by that. They're not part of that, really. I mean, they are in the sense that obviously, like, our character is in some part of underground, but generally, right, let's talk about the general sense of these miscellaneous. Like, what is the differentiation? They're the same.
It's just a forced different. My understanding was it was like a forced differentiation with that upper level, and it was almost kind of like, and the same as like bartender. Like, I was under the impression that bartender was essentially like sacrificed to make a public,
make a point,
sort of like a reminder of like, this is what can happen, and to kind of stoke the flames of fear.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think two things come to mind. First, I think it's okay to realize that if a narrative is referencing something, it doesn't need to necessarily be one to one, because that's sort of sophomoric writing. I don't think, like, if the allusions are to authoritarianism, it would be a lesser, I think, work if it just ignored the story and did a tracing essentially of it. But going back to what Kai said, like, that's right. There is no, like, the class thing is forced, I think, solely because Principal wants to artificially create these classes, and in so doing, she's creating a forced kind of order based on who she believes should be on the upper and on the lower. I mean, yeah, obviously you're right. It has nothing to do with, like, capital gain. Like, I don't think there's any currency in this world. But
it's not just that. It's that the way that authoritarianism takes hold, right, is that you have to convince a group of people that there is an enemy. And so in a classless, borderless, moneyless society, which this is, other than the artificial border created, how do you keep a group of people who are in this upper level, right, from recognizing the sameness of the ones below them, right? And there's no, like, once again, you don't have to spell it out, but you have to provide some sort of, like, even if it's something like, oh, these are the clones from these original descendants, right? Like, these are made of these people who have created some great sin, and that is why they exist in this lower realm away from this. Because if you, once again, like, the way that, like, authoritarianism today manifests is like, you go, okay, well, these people are not from here, right? They're different from you. Their culture is different. They're a danger. They're a threat. And that's how people action against and rally around this idea of, like, insulation and sameness and monoculture. But in this world, everyone's the same. So it's like, you have to have a pretty damn good reason, because if you're staring in your own face at the other side of a border and someone's like, well, they're bad, and you're like, why? And they're like, because I said so.
Yeah. Well, then I think it's less
because we said so.
Yeah. Well, then I think it's less than the miscellaneous. And like Ben was saying, it is the individuals that were from the old time, because bartenders like that, Watcher and Fixer are like that. There are these people that are from this old way of how things are working, and they are different from the people that were born in the recent kind of regime of how things are working.
I think I get what Kai's saying, though. It's like, although, like, we can look at it as like the surface level, and it's kind of like, it is kind of like the people above are looking at the people below and thinking they're less than because they've been told they're less than. And I think that, I don't know if that's like some theme of the game where it's like, in reality, if you take a step back and look, and like, you're no different to those people below, it's the fact that the person who's being revered, the principal who's being revered, is saying it, and her word is being taken as gospel. Whereas in reality, if the people in the orchard looked at the people below, there's no fucking difference because they're clones. They're
Yeah,
exactly
and I guess
identical. Like,
that's how it was when I was playing this because I hadn't really thought about that point, which I really love that you had brought it up, Kai, because I didn't even think about my first thought was to the miscellaneous because that's what I was told. Like the game was like these people are bad. If you can't figure out a purpose in here, if you're not good at a skill, then you're worthless and you have no worth. And if you do have one, you get to go up and be up top with all the people that have
Well,
worth and have purpose in this world. And if you don't, you're stuck here below. And
but
even
the
how the Reds treat some of the miscellaneous kind of has this, you can feel this tension between these two kind of classes that have been artificially created
but
here.
there are miscellaneous in the top level. That's not
Yeah.
the delineating factor. The not having a because there and that's been in this society, right? Like even before the provisional government, there was people who did
Yeah.
not occupy a role.
mm,
They are, they're trainees, right? They're trying to
Sure.
figure out what they're supposed to be doing. And sure, you're, born into one of these buckets, and then you kind of have to figure it out from there. And maybe you never even get the opportunity to, uh, you know, make it to become a watcher or a fixer or bang bang fire or whatever. But like once again, that's my thing. Like if everyone below was miscellaneous, I'd be like, okay, like I guess that makes sense. Like they're listless, they
mm.
don't have a purpose. But there's miscellaneous in the top level. And once again,
Yeah.
Are
she has
there?
said,
I just
yeah,
played
There's,
through it today and I didn't see any. And you talk
I
to
think
folks and they'll always say like, you don't see many miscellaneous up here. Like, what's your function?
I
And
think
that's
there's
all
right,
about
some.
but
like
you don't see
like a
many is not
sneering.
none, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's some that have gone up who are now they're like the
So like
underlings
the underling,
of
like, it's kind
like,
of what we
yeah.
are for bartender, I
I think
imagine.
Slaves.
Like, yeah.
I think
Slaves.
Well, not only that, but like there's even another comment or an individual you interact with that says, "Oh, you're wearing black. Like that's very bold of you to wear that up here." Like
mm,
essentially showing that you are a miscellaneous up here. But you're right. I mean, they say that there is very few miscellaneous that do go up there, but that doesn't mean they don't ever go up there,
and I
right?
think
So I get
like
that.
yeah, I think the way I kind of just looked at it was like these people are just like the principal has such
Like a
a grip
chokehold
on these
on,
people
yeah,
that like they are just believing that the miscellaneous are less than because they're being
yeah,
told that they're less than.
yeah,
And by
and
creating that barrier and not letting people into the
yeah,
orchard, it kind of reinforces that class.
yeah.
Like,
I want to talk about that the inciting incident here, Kai mentioned, where bartender is killed. Right, bartender is the same bartender that we knew from the beginning, which I kind of like this idea of getting characters that felt like side characters and giving them an important role later. I think that's kind of a fun concept with characters. But bartender being killed, and like I said, for Ben or the point Ben you made, Ben, of bartender being made a point of and just like giving the people the idea of like these older versions, these people that were born in the older times
well,
versus now.
it's something that one of the Reds says. So, like, I mean, the first time you meet bartender,
Yeah,
um, and again, like, I mean, it would make sense if the creators are from Hong Kong and stuff because it's very like bartender is being basically scolded for making mixes without using like
yeah,
non-authorized materials or
right.
something, and she sends you on this like goose chase and that. So that was like interesting. But one of the Reds says something where they hint that like every year on the anniversary of All Mother's death, somebody dies. I can't remember the specific thing, but it basically hinted that like the bartender was chosen, and probably because of her links to being one of the last like older sisters.
Hmm.
But it was almost kind of like that's how the flames of fear are kept stoked, is that like on a regular basis someone is essentially sacrificed, quote unquote,
Yeah,
in all by orders of the principal to kind of remind the miscellaneous, to remind people in the orchard that
yeah,
even the miscellaneous, like everyone is capable of evil, and that you know basically be diligent and
yeah.
report any suspicions, etc.
Well, and going back real quick to kind of the conversation we were just having, the other point with Blue that kind of led to this idea of separation was how much our character envies the top and wants to go upstairs. And even when if you go to the staircase that leads to the top of the orchard and you talk to the guard, it kind of seems like there's a relationship there where that guard and her, she's tried to like sneak past the guards and go upstairs multiple times before. So there's kind of this like level of envy that's created from the people that live in Old Town and the people that live above, which I think kind of adds more again to this separation, this class separation that has been created here. But yeah, like I was saying, this inciting incident which drives our character forward is bartender being killed. After bartender is killed, it kind of flips everything that Blue had on her head, and bartender was someone that she really cared for and grew close with. And at this point now, Blue's like, I want to kill them all. Like I want to go up there and I want to make a point out of everything. It kind of seems and maybe I just didn't talk to a lot of the NPCs, but it seems like there is some like Blue was working with some kind of underground delivery system and things like that with the individuals. I'm forgetting the main girl that we go talk to.
Chris.
Chris. Yeah. So there seems like there's a whole kind of like
Like a
underground resistance that's happening down there, because that's kind of what kicks us off to going to the surface is Chris telling us to meet someone at the orchard upstairs, and we essentially get bartender's role as bartender dies.
But before we ascend, I just wanted to say the scene afterwards and the way it's shot, like as Blue is walking away, her entire field of vision is myopic and completely not distorted, but like blurred. And you get these constant pop-ups like find Chris, no, want to be alone,
It's like
find Melody, find them both, kill them all, burn it all down. It's such a brilliant depiction of like that combination of shock and just vitriolic rage that like you can't even see straight. It's and not to mention it's like the camera is positioned directly behind like one of the shoulders, so like you see the back of the head, you don't see like the whole body anymore. It's not the blue zone like half of the screen. It's just it's shot brilliantly. That was such a great choice.
It's also interesting because it's interesting because thinking about it now, like Rick said it, like it could have just been a fault, you know, like it could have just been an internal monologue, but it's almost like she was like so enraged, like it literally become an objective. Because if you,
I was saying, I like how they connected it to like the gaminess of it, how as
like
objectives that came up.
If you hit Y, the spectator will like open up and show you your objectives, and that's kind of like how it happens when you get set an objective. And it's almost like she wasn't just having these thoughts of like, oh, like I'm gonna kill them. Like it was now her purpose. Her you know, her purpose was to kill them all.
But not only that, but the idea of like when you're in this moment and you're kind of filled with this anxiety and this rage, your mind is also kind of scattered all over the place, where you're trying to ground yourself with something. And it was cool those objectives coming up and like what am I supposed to do right now? Am I supposed to find this person? Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? I'm angry. I want to kill them, and it's cool to see all that come up.
Yeah. It's real life. That's what would happen if it happened to one of us.
Absolutely. So we do, again, like I said, take the role of bartender and get access to the upstairs. And it's interesting. I didn't the entire time we were in Old Town, at least for me, I didn't get an understanding of where we were. I mean, I got an understanding of the upstairs and the downstairs, and I assumed this was obviously connected to the orchard. Yeah, I didn't understand that direct connection. And then when you finally get to go upstairs and you're walking through the area, I realized that I had been there before in that area. Or as you get to the top of the stairs, and there's kind of like this room, and I was trying to remember what was in there before, because the staircase leading down to the Old Town was blocked before, but I took a screenshot of it, and I was trying to find the screenshot and I couldn't find it. But I was like, I had this moment of familiarity, like, oh, this is where we are, this is the section. I didn't realize this was all underground this entire time.
I mean, also Old Town seems like a nicer place to live than
I mean,
aesthetically at least.
Fucking boring ass garden ass fucking circle. It's like you have a whole town down here. I'm like, all right.
Aside from the whole, racism thing that's happening down here.
But once again, what are they? That's my question. Is like, sure, racism for racism's sake, but what are they missing out on?
I mean,
what is the thing that they're not provided? What of Maslow's hierarchy of needs do they not have access to?
And I think that's what we learn as Blue goes up to the top. She realizes that there's like, this is not what I thought it was. I was told that this was like this magical place that I should be lucky to be able to go up.
It's just have the right to, isn't it? Like it's like perceived elitism.
When Kai said that though, like what of Maslow's hierarchy of needs don't you have? All I could think of was Noah in one of the flashbacks, like, don't you have a roof over your head? Like, what
Yeah.
have you? Do you not have
Yep.
enough? Like, why are you trying to resist and dissent? You know,
Yeah,
like I
I
think
think
the game in some level wants you to say that to yourself, and then prompts you to say, "Is that true?" Though,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
it wants you to think that.
I
for
mean,
yeah.
sure.
once again, I don't have an answer, so
Yeah,
it can ask that question,
Right.
but it does not
sure.
provide a satisfying answer
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
question.
And this is when you enter, this is when what's her name? Capital Red or something
Yeah.
has that conversation with you. And is like, oh, like basically I'm gonna be keeping an eye on you, I'm gonna be watching you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really surprised that the whole time this was happening, we didn't get some sort of color or something. Like I would have thought, like, because like healers is pink.
Yeah. Well, bartender also didn't have a
The
color.
ministers now, aren't they? There's the
Yes.
Minister of Defense,
The
the
high
Minister of
ministers
Intelligence.
is
Yeah.
the five of them now. The main sisters are now referred to as the high ministers in their exact roles. So the roles are essentially the same. They're just called something different now. And it's interesting because again, like Kai was stating, there's this whole idea of higher and lower and the separation and everything like that. But when you talk to Eileen, who's the first high minister you talk to, it doesn't I didn't sense that friction immediately. Like it almost seemed like Eileen's like, well, we want to help, help you integrate up here. Yeah, if you need anything. And as you talk to some of the other high ministers, they also don't really give me a like an evil kind of,
I mean, honestly, a lot of them
dictatorship
seem
for
zonked
principle.
out of their mind. They seem
Yeah.
like,
That's really interesting. So that first conversation with the Minister of Defense, um, I kind of got the impression that like she was talking to Blue as very much as like a like, oh, you won't know what to do here, I'll show you the ropes, when like
Mm,
in reality it's the exact same fucking as below. Like it's you have a purpose, I guess, and you do your thing day to day.
yeah.
I felt
And
like I felt like a lot of the conversations that happened were like overtly condescending. I felt like there was a lot of
oh, interesting.
like, oh, you don't see many miscellaneous around here. Like it's not a statement. It's very much like
Sure.
a condescending, like, oh, like what are you doing here? You don't
Yeah.
belong here. You're a miscellaneous.
That's interesting. So I definitely heard some of those conversations from, direct character interactions, and then obviously some conversations will just happen as you're walking by them. But most of the like the high minister conversations felt genuine to me. I guess that's why I was confused, is because they seemed like, oh, you're no different. And maybe that's
Mm.
because we have a purpose now, and now that we have a purpose, we have value, and they're like,
yeah,
oh,
you
you
don't want
have
to
a
you don't want to
role.
piss off your bartender.
That's what
That's
that's
You
true.
want to
that's
be homies with the bartender.
That's
You want those double
that's very true.
pours. You want
I
that
think
exactly.
I
inside
think some of
sunrise. I
them.
think is
Yeah, the inside sunrise.
I
Yeah.
think maybe some of them would have been. It would have been very interesting to see how they acted, because I think what changed for me when I was listening to the conversations was like when they found out. This is just the way I'm perceiving. Like it was condescending until they found out you were the new bartender, and then
Mhm.
they realized you had a purpose in the
And they're
orchard,
like, oh,
and then
she's
it
chill.
became
She's chill.
genuine.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a miscellaneous who's found their way into the orchard. It was someone who has been promoted and is worthy of being in the orchard.
Yeah, for sure. Similar to before, here at this point, our goal is to go to the bar, but we can go and interact with as many or as little characters as we want before we go to the bar. Yeah, Kai.
well, let's talk about the Jows.
Oh
Yes,
yes,
there are now
there's
There's a
now
new
Jows.
character
Yes, the Jow type.
introduced, the Jow type, which
Mhm.
I don't really.
It's
Their
even
purpose
less
seems to be
than
like
Irish. They are there
a
to serve.
museum, like
Oh,
docent.
to me, the impression, because there were no Jows in the old town, there were only
Oh.
No.
Jows in the orchard. To me, they kind of like had this like servant role to them. Like the
Mhm.
Jows were less than, and the Jows were cloned, because essentially what's happening in the background, I don't know if you picked up. I think there is a direct conversation where it happens. The new minister of health or whatever is talking about how the needs of the population aren't being met, and so as a result they're having to clone more, and the machines are going into overtime, and they're producing too many of the irises, so they started to make the Zhaos instead, and it was almost like making that many irises was like affecting the quality of the irises that were being made or something. So they just started making all these Zhaos and giving them all the quote unquote menial tasks that people, like tending to the fucking diaries, the play,
Yeah, if
and
anyone
stuff
should
like
be in the
that.
lower section, put the Jows down there. Fucking
That would make like you want to highlight the like racist and elitism,
The
like
Zhaos
having
and
the
Iris
Zhaos in the
types.
old town
Yeah.
and the
but it's
irises
also
in the
confusing
orchard.
because like I mean we'll get into it, but Zhao has a very interesting like relationship with Iris in that obviously Zhao is like looks up to Iris and Iris looks down on Zhao as like this like immigrant child who has not assimilated into life. But then later on, Iris is talking to a picture of Zhao through the entire last half of the game as like her
Mhm.
only outlet to,
Yeah.
understanding, or her only friend essentially, right? And so it's like a
Yeah.
very weird. And then maybe like I mean, because obviously we know the principal is the youngest who created the Zhao
Yeah.
clone, so maybe this is her way of being like, you know, even pissing her mother off more is making dozens and dozens of this like great
Mhm.
sin
Yeah.
that she committed. Who knows? But
We get to that today, right?
yes,
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. We do. But yeah, you're right. I think that immediately when you go to the top, you could tell that the Zhaos are kind of less than, and that they're trying to rise up and
well,
kill principal as
yeah.
well.
The only like it's interesting because like I didn't really read it as like they're less than. I read that they're like a version of knower because both of them
Mm,
they're not like doing menial tasks. Both of them are standing by like objects of like great importance. They're standing. The first one is standing by Watcher, and the second one is standing, I think, in the waterfall.
Zhao's
yes, the
diary,
waterfall.
is it?
Yeah,
Or-
Zhao's
yeah.
diary,
Yeah, in
and
Zhao's diary.
they're both kind of like that's why I said docents, right? They're like people who like explain the importance of these like historical events, and that's like when you talk to the first Zhao, she's like, "This is Watcher," and then she goes through like the whole
Yeah.
story about that stuff, and then you're like,
Mm.
It's
"Hey,
interesting too because
code word."
it's interesting too because if I went and talked, I didn't talk to everybody, but I went and talked to the new knower, the new High Minister of Information or whatever her actual title is, and it seems that the ideas now, the practices now is just to have new history and information and forget all the past, burn it all.
that's-
You can't.
literal
You
sense.
can't
That's-
even.
That's precisely
Yeah.
it. It's the history in the past as the state wants you to remember it. Like it's
Yep.
complete, and that's part of the Zhao's whole arc here too, right? Is you talk to the one that's giving out Zhao's diary, which is only the history from Zhao's perspective. Keep in mind, and that's why they believe their entire purpose is to serve the Iris types because Zhao loved Iris so much. That's their
Yeah.
whole purpose. They don't know the history of Iris being such a profoundly shitty friend to her because it's not told to them, because that's not what principal wants them to know. Like that's this whole thing is like, just erase the past. We're not going to confront it. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know what we tell you. And
Even,
that's
like-
part of what they're resisting towards.
It's almost
Yeah,
like that's
even-
happening in real life now.
Well, even like if you if you go to the library and speak to them, you
Yeah.
can speak to the irises there,
Yeah.
and one of the irises says something, and because you get a bunch of options, and I don't know if this is just me, I was trying not to stand out because I mean, we accepted the bartending job with the kind of intention of bringing them down from the inside, right? Like once we're in the orchard, we're gonna try and cause the destruction of the government as we know it. And you go and talk to her, and she says something. You talk to one of them, she's like, "Oh, like the records have been lost," and you're like, "Well." She's like, only the Iris knowers, or whatever they're called now, know the old poem that the All Mother said when she was dying, which is what was said to Principal. And she's like, "Oh, like you don't want to hear that," and you can say like, "Oh no, I want to hear it," and she's like, like it was this," and she sort of recites it, but something you learn later on was that like Principal burned Noah
Noah.
burned Noah
Yeah,
burnt the
library.
library. And again, that was just kind of like, I mean, I wasn't even thinking of like communist China, right? I'm thinking Nazi Germany. I'm thinking like this is what they did when they took over territories, is they burnt all of the books to get rid of the history and then taught the history as they kind of wanted it taught.
I'm
And
glad that
this
you
episode
said
really is
that.
just reflecting reality right now.
I'm glad that you said that because I just want to like add a quick caveat, especially with Kai here. I and you too as well, Ben. I like the political trappings of this are
Mhm.
incredibly important. Like especially them being an Asian diaspora, the whole Hong Kong thing. That's really important. I'm also not super knowledgeable politically. Like I couldn't tell you the nuances of the Hong Kong thing. I couldn't tell you Kai, you said Marxist. I couldn't tell you the difference between Marxism and Maoism and Leninism. Like I can't. That's a deficiency of my own, and I feel like that is a critical part of this narrative. Not to say that you can't analyze it well without that, but that's a shade of this that I can't bring. So hearing you
Sure.
and Ben talk about it in that way is it's enlightening. It's
So
really
yeah,
interesting.
I think this is useful for maybe some of the listeners as well. So like Hong Kong riots, the umbrella riots in 2019 and 2020. So Hong Kong was a British colony originally taken from Chinese mainland, and it was signed with a deal to be like an import port, essentially owned and operated by the British. In 1998, the government signed a 50-year return deal, essentially saying that we're going to give Hong Kong back to the Chinese government after this transitional period of 50 years, essentially. So in 2047, Hong Kong will return to mainland China. The problem is that the British government gave the right to the Hong Kong Democratic Party, essentially, right? This is the Democracy Party, which China does not operate under a democracy in the strict sense of how Americans understand democracy. And so there's this ongoing unease and battle between China absorbing Hong Kong once again and bringing it under the CCP, which is the Chinese Communist Party, which is the major party that runs China, and the Democratic Party that exists within Hong Kong that was instilled by the British government after they left their imperialist regime behind, essentially. And what happened is that China decided to do a extradition policy in 2019 in which any political descendants or any criminals essentially could be extradited from Hong Kong to mainland China to be tried under their laws, not under Hong Kong laws. And that obviously was viewed as an overreach by the people living in Hong Kong who are already very suspicious of the Chinese government and their practices. And so that led to these largest in history of Hong Kong riots where people went to the streets and rioted against the Chinese overreach into this space. The problem being, though, that inevitably Hong Kong will return to China. Like Hong Kong has no sovereignty over itself, really. It has only these imperialist forces that own it, right? Like the British owned it and now they gave it back to China. And it's, we're approaching very slowly this year of 2047 in which Hong Kong returns to the Chinese government legally under international law, right? So like it's this weird futile battle of like this very small, very important trade city trying to like carve some level of democracy and capitalism in this part of the world that has a very different view on policy and economics and the way that government functions. And so like, it's hard. And especially being Americans and British, like our perspective of China and the way that China functions is very negative. It's very like propagandized and antagonistic, and China is viewed as this big Eastern threat that exists, right? And like, oh, America can do no wrong. We have democracy, definitely no authoritarianism here. And so like, it's hard, but it's hard to also argue with someone's perspective of coming from that background, right? And especially being an immigrant from Hong Kong, leaving because of Chinese overreach, and then
Which what we see here
going into COVID, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
happened. That's essentially what ended the protests. Is like they started protesting in 2019 into 2020, and then COVID happened, and they all had to go inside. And the protests ended, and the government retook control. Like that's how the story ends. So it's like I get that can be frustrating, and obviously people have feelings about communism and Marxism and the Chinese party, but like there's a lot of nuance that, once again, one of my problems with this game is that they don't do a good job of exploring, right? It's very surface level. It's very like, oh, we assume you, yeah, it's like, we assume you have all this context and we're not going to get too deep into it, but we're definitely going to take like very specific shots that if you're in the know, like you'll get. And it's like even the train stuff, like one of the big things of the protests of like in Hong Kong was that the protesters would use the underground subway systems to get around and to like pop up
Interesting.
and do activations of protesting, and also like hold them as like centers. So like when they're in the train later on, right, and they're like going around, that's a
Yeah.
reference to how those protesters in Hong Kong actually fought the government at the time, and during their protests there was like this big, in Prince Edward Station in Hong Kong, there's this big like upheaval where essentially the military police went and attacked a bunch of protesters and killed some protesters in the train station. So like there's a lot of these like oblique references to this stuff that was really important, but like
That's
the assumption is that you know that, which is crazy. Like that's not that
Yeah.
shouldn't be the assumption.
Even
Well,
cinema-
I can't really argue or contribute a lot to that meaningfully, Kai. I mean, you're obviously right. They do expect you to know a lot of that. I think as an outsider's perspective, outsider being somebody that's not super knowledgeable in the political sphere, my read on this is that they didn't go fully into that simply because it's just not the
Yeah.
point of the larger narrative. It's more so it's
Mhm.
personal to them, and it does feed into this idea of like, if we do not revere and confront the past, it will that is death. Like it will eat you alive.
Yeah.
I think that plays into that, and obviously it's part of their lived experience. But like I guess I don't see it, and this could be because I'm ignorant of it. I don't see it as being a meaningful part of the overarching narrative outside of just them saying like this contributes to that, and it's our lived
Yeah.
experience, and we can't just not include it, I guess.
Well, that's what I was gonna say too, is I was curious of how that would work. And then we get I think the moments with Iris's parents are that. I mean, again, it's obviously their perspective and it's that specific
Mhm.
perspective of what's happening. So you don't get a lot of like
That's
overall
my
information, but that's the
that's
context connection.
exactly, and that's my big criticism, is they could have left that out, right? If you want
Yeah.
to reference your life experience and leave it vague but tie it to these things you went through, that's totally fine. But they literally have these characters that call out a real specific historical event, right? Like
Yeah.
like it is not opaque at all what they're referencing the 2019-2020 Hong Kong riots and their experience and fleeing to Canada for that reason. So it's like, if you wanted to have some level of separation where there was no expectation of you understanding the context of that, that's fine. You could be like, "Oh, we were in this place and we left," right? Like, cuz the whole thing is a fictional narrative. There is no reason to tie it to this real thing that happened. You could have that separation completely, because we all know that the occupants did not take over and we all are irises now, right? So like that departs in the reality, but they tie it to this very real thing and this very real experience that they do a very messy job of. Like, they give you a singular perspective of this family who, and they don't go into any great detail. And it's the same thing that I had criticisms with like Iris's background, right? Like they play her as this like brooding immigrant child and this immigrant experience of this new place in which she is like thrown away her culture in every meaningful way to like embrace Western
Mhm.
society, right? And Zhao is the representation of the good immigrant child who stays
Yeah.
connected to culture and has some, love and admiration for the mother, who is the same way, who is split between these two places. But they do it in such a clunky and messy and overwrought way that it just feels non-genuine. Like, I understand it's their lived experience, but the way that they portrayed it, it's just like there's something about it that feels hollow. Like, it's just
Yeah.
there. It's like, oh, we're mentioning these things, but it's like, what are you saying about it though? Like, what does this connect to? What is the message that this says, right? Like,
For
and
sure.
that's the tension in this game is like this fake world that they're creating that is very interesting, and this real experience and life thing that they're trying to explain to you at the same time. They seem very disconnected a lot of the time in a way that is unsettling to me, at least.
Yeah.
That's my
For
big-
sure. For sure. I want to get into the bartending scene in the bartending section here, because our goal was to connect with the Zhao types, and essentially there's a play that's going to be happening that is reenacting the retelling of the events of Watcher essentially killing Allmother. And the whole thing is we're going to build a bomb that's going to be inside of a cake that's going to go off at that during that play. And our whole point is we're gathering ingredients as we're bartending, talking to people, and trying to gather
And
those
Chris is
things.
the one who told us to
Chris is the one who
connect
told us,
with
the Zhaos. Yeah, not specifically. We dn't know. They just said somebody up there, and we just
someone in the orchard.
yeah. Zhao was the one that is
Well,
also
I
part
think
of
they gave
this.
us a location, right? They said
Yeah, it
like
was in the middle
go
of the
go
orchard.
to the well, no, they're like a specific because like there's a reason we go there and we tell that Zhao the or does she give us the code word? Who gives us the code word?
She gives
She
us the
gives us the
code
code
word.
word
She
to
We
tell
gives
the
the
other
other
Zhaos.
Zhao.
to give to the other Zhaos, yeah.
No worries.
That's right. No worries.
But yeah, you're bartending and you're talking to multiple individuals. I think the biggest takeaway from this is we referenced Capital Red, which I think is like the head of security around here,
I
just
believe so,
underneath
yeah.
the High Minister of Protection, the one that was under Bang Bang Fire. But Capital Red is also in on this. Capital Red is essentially the one who gives us the bomb and is
Well,
kind
they all
of
bring
the
their own
lead of this
components, didn't
resistance.
they? Like
Yeah,
one of them brings the cake, but it's been hollowed out.
yeah,
And they're all very, very coy about it. They're not just kind of like, oh, here's the cake. It's very much like, oh, like someone explained, like the way they explain what's going to happen. They're like, oh, like we need a cake for the first festivities, and I hear the ending's going to be
yeah.
explosive, and like there's all these kind of like sort of
Very
like
tongue in cheek,
code
very yeah.
words and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do love how they've kind of mass produced the Zhao diary though to spread that around to everybody who wants it,
Mhm.
because as we're leading up to the play, there's a little table before the entrance of the play that has all like mass produced Zhao diaries
You
there.
need a little bit of propaganda.
Yeah, a
yeah.
little bit.
Which I
This threw me off that
assume
it
is
was,
a reference to like the Little Red Book,
yeah,
Oh yeah.
which is Chairman Mao's Little Red Book, which is like his life
and
experience and
quotes and
the
stuff.
Yeah.
reasoning for the Communist Party in China. So once
Yeah.
again, in a oblique hit at the oppressor government.
Yeah.
with
I
it.
have read portions of that. I can say that much.
But
No, I'm the same way. I just sit back and slack
You just-
jawed as Kai talks about politics. And in this context too, I'm just like, this is incredibly
the thing is,
interesting.
it's so interesting because like I'm not good, but there was so much for me. I was like, this is so fucking Nazi coded. Like the whole
Yeah.
fucking burning of the books and the like the sacrifice and all
There's
of that.
definitely an authoritarian playbook. That
Yeah,
exists,
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
certain steps you kind of
So-
go through.
Speaking about the bartending scene, the thing that threw me off the most is it was fucking first person, and I
Yeah,
don't know
it is
why
first
that threw
person.
me off so much.
I also, what are we serving? That's the thing I can't, because like,
Do you know
like-
what it looks like? I don't know if you guys got this in the UK, US, but like in the UK, when you go to festivals,
are you talking about the oxygen bars?
yes, yeah, like
Yeah,
the
no oxygen
and
bars.
stuff. It looks like
I mean, that's not unfamiliar with the oxygen bar, Rick.
Rick's face was.
No, I've
So
never heard of
essentially-
this.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if you have it like in like a high street or something, but like at a festival you'll go and there'll be like a pop-up tent where people are selling like flavored oxygen,
Mhm.
and you literally sit there with like these tubes up your nose, and it's
Yep.
like flavored oxygen, and it's supposed to kind of like reinvigorate. So like if you're tired after like, or you're on like a hangover or whatever, you can like sit there and inhale basically flavored oxygen and revitalize yourself and kind of get you going.
It's a weird
but
thing, but it's
so
yeah.
yeah, it's so crazy. But it kind of it looked like this, but almost like in like a blood transfusion. It looked like there
I
were like
can't tell if it's like
things on the bar. But
experiences, right? Because they're like very specific, like inside sunrise. So like, is it like you get like the emotion of that? Like I
Yeah.
don't.
well, because it seems to match the mood, right? Because they come in and they're like, "Oh, like I want
Dark
something
and
that's
broody
yeah,
and,
gonna
like,
match me,
yeah.
like dark and broody, or like what's the red punch?"
Well, I mean, whomst among us hasn't said, "I want a wild night, so give me some tequila," you know?
Yeah, you know what?
That's
Exactly,
very true,
exactly.
yeah.
The future is just we don't have emotions, but we go and like pick an emotion at a bar that we want to feel it at the time, and that's our dystopian world.
I want to feel more depressed. Can I have some of that,
Something
please?
like that, like it was some sort of flavored oxygen or some
Yeah.
sort of like liquid infusion or something.
You know what's wild is I've seen these things in person. I've seen these things in real life. I've never used one myself, but it wasn't until we've like sat here and like described what they are, how dystopian and weird
Yeah,
this feels to
it
like
is
have
weird.
flavored oxygen that you
It's
just like
literally
huff.
like it's like, oh, you took too much drugs and drank too much yesterday. Huff some oxygen, you'll be
I
good
mean,
to go.
I did it as a child. They used to have it at theme parks. That's where I did it. They used to have it at
wild.
Six Flags, and I would do it as a
Yeah,
child.
they got the kids now too doing this shit.
Well, like,
God, that's crazy.
Yeah. Once again, we'll move on. But yes, we serve weird cocktails of some kind.
Some sort of thing.
But I do want to get to the play, because obviously the play is how we end this chapter. It's the big event that happens in this chapter. We put the bomb in the cake is there, and this play happens. Ben had mentioned if you talk to any of the actors beforehand, they're all like intentionally bad acting, and for me it's fun. Like with there's some character dressed up as Iris, there's a character dressed up as Watcher, and they're all very bad at their job, which
Not
I
only
think
that,
is
but they're
really
the
funny.
opposite spectrums of bad acting, which is the like over enthusiastic theater kid, and then
They're
like
an
the
actor.
underprepared, just like
Yeah.
fucking, it's gonna
One
be
of them's
fine.
really the one who's playing Allmother is like really resentful because she
Yeah.
played the Watcher last year and was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. The other big thing is there is a oh my gosh, what are the floaty orbs called? I'm blanking on the names of them.
The secretaries.
Spectator.
Secretary.
Yeah,
Secretary, that's it.
the
I said
secretary. But
spectator.
there's one
Secretary.
here called Vice, and Vice is kind of narrating the story that's happening. And so we now get to see the events of Watcher killing Allmother again in this very specific perspective. I mean, Watcher is seen as the most evil person, right?
Mhm.
She's literally on display in the middle of the orchard, tied up and everything. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is her real body." They just essentially taxidermied Watcher and
Mhm.
put her in this tube for everyone to see. This is the evil person. Um, but Principal is actively part of these plays that are happening too.
I mean,
The other reason for the
Well,
bomb is because the higher ministers are going to be present. They have a
yes,
special roped off area at the front of the stage, which is right next to the cake bomb. And that is basically we're looking to mainly kill the ministry, like the ministers. That's our main kind of purpose. And
yeah,
it sounds really horrible, but everyone else is kind of viewed as like collateral damage. It's like for the greater good, sort of
yeah.
thing.
Hecky Grace.
Grace.
Yeah, and they're prepared for it. I mean, that's
Oh, yeah.
as you settle in to get ready. Cherry Zhao says, like,
Yeah.
I knew this was coming. Like, I'm glad to be here. I'm just nervous. It's not every day I die.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah, in a world that you're essentially immortal as long as you don't like slip and crack your mask, then that's it's an interesting perspective to be like you said, I don't die every day.
Well, you don't age.
Yeah.
Can I say about the play too?
Yeah.
One thing that I absolutely love about this, like, it's so beautiful. You have a choice. Like, eventually, you can just blow everything up whenever you want. Like, immediately if you want. Well, not immediately, but it gives you several choices. And if you let it play all the way out, what you see is Principal will tell the actor playing Allmother, who looks identical to her, call me youngest, and she just goes off script. They're like, we didn't
crazy.
rehearse this. Like, call me youngest. Tell me you forgive me. Tell me you love me. And it's beautiful because it ties back into this idea that we also see throughout here relating to how the past can shape and mold the present. Is this idea of, I hate to say, like, this has become almost totally trite to talk about, but generational trauma, through Iris's mom down to Iris, through Iris down to youngest. And we see that cycle perpetuating all throughout. In this way, it keeps going. And what it hints at, if you let it get to the very end, when it forces you to blow it up, you get three options. It says, end this, which is what it said the whole time. Or no, what does it say? I have it written down here somewhere.
Press switch or something. It's one of the options.
Yeah, press switch, and then number 2, end this. Number 3, for her. It's starting to set up Principal is a tragic figure. It's foreshadowing this subtly right here, maybe not so subtly, I guess. But she, in some ways, she is a victim too of what was passed down to her through Iris's mother too, and this cycle continues. And in that way, like, it's just another wrinkle, or not a wrinkle, it's just another spoke in the wheel of this overarching theme of how the past and the present sort of intermingle. I thought it was beautiful, that scene in particular. Like, if you let it go all the way to the end this for her. I don't know, I love that a lot.
No, I agree, and that's what was kind of surprising about Principal's actions in general. I mean, when we first, when Watcher first kills Allmother, Principal blames us for it, even though it seems like this was kind of part of her plan the entire time. But it's with everything that the youngest had gone through of, feeling isolated and not feeling love, you would think that she wouldn't want, other people to feel that way. But like you said, this idea of this generational trauma and what this can do to an individual, and then like when she's talking to the actor that's playing Allmother, this kind of just like desperate plea of like, just please forgive me, to this person that's not actually your mother, but looks like your mother is interesting. But
Say it. Say you forgive me.
we survived the explosion. And now Secretary is here. Our old secretary from before is here, and we have to escape. That's the thing. Secretary is like, you have to get out of here now. And,
yeah, well,
and
you did terrorism, so
you did exploding. But this section also fully in first person, as Ben was talking about, like in the bar scene. When you're running out, it's all in first person.
One thing that we need to set up for later is that the higher minister, like of everything principal, wasn't actually at the play. Her seat was vacated. All of the other ministers were there, except for her. So we didn't actually get her. So we haven't actually taken down the government.
Yeah. But I really love the visual of the scene as you're running away, because it flips back and forth between this and then the riots that are happening too. And it's just a really cool visual with the context of the narrative that's happening, but also it had me questioning like my first thought is like, oh, this wasn't real, or it's a communion, or like this is not reality that's happening, because it kind of looks like that, where it's like flickering and we're shifting between both of these kind of realities that are happening here.
I saw it as almost, it's just like a literal symbolic, like history repeating itself, right? Like it's Iris's mum.
I can see that too. Yeah,
Iris's mum and dad fought for their freedom, and they fought against the government. And now you, as Iris clone, have done the same thing in a different way, but there was similarities to it.
It's almost like a forced communion is happening. You know, the communions go into Iris's past. Now, like some kind of weird communion is forcing itself into your present, like even though you don't want it to. It's like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. But your whole goal is to get to the train. Get to the train. You're being chased by the Reds the entire time, and as you get to the train, a Red stops you, but then is killed by Bang Bang Fire, who is there. Which we had heard that Bang Bang Fire was like walking around. Right? Oh yeah, dude. Honestly, I got jump scared by that gunshot when it happened too.
They're like, Bang Bang Fire like stalks the tracks and shoots people. We're like, what the fuck?
So Bang Bang Fire is alive, and we have to get into the train. And somehow at the end of this whole chapter and all this excitement, not even the biggest reveal, because we get into the train with Bang Bang Fire, and we find out that Fixer is also alive still too, which is another big twist that happens. And then we kind of lose consciousness as everything. I couldn't really parse what was happening here, if it was just because of the explosion or the excitement of everything, because we start seeing multiple of Secretary, and then we just kind of pass out.
Yeah, I think we're just a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, I'd put it down to like an adrenaline thing or something. Like, the adrenaline sort of stopped now. We were safe, and we just crashed.
But Fixer is alive. How did you guys? That threw me off. I was like, holy shit,
I don't really. I mean, also perfect Iris, because it's a fucking asshole the entire section of this game. It's just
I feel like I called this. at some point.
You called it
actually being incinerated.
Yeah. I don't really understand why.
Being incinerated, or why she's still alive?
How she's alive, how that works. I guess she went to be with mother. Isn't that how that worked? And then she was supposed to be incinerated. I'm confused.
Well, what it was, I mean, we find out later on that this was essentially just something that Principal, like the incinerations were never part of Principal, just lied about them, almost as like a fear tool to keep the
it's a fear tactic
in the orchard, like in check. It's like this one stepped out of line and I have killed her. Healer stepped out of line, Healer was killed, but they weren't actually killed.
Doesn't that mean there's a bunch of them then? Because like theoretically, Fixer wasn't the first one to die.
No.
Yeah,
I don't think
there's just a bunch of people who are like
they're wanting the train tracks.
Just I think kicking rocks. They're like,
don't they go to the surface? Isn't that like?
Oh, there is the idea of like that outer world too, like that world outside of the orchard.
Never seen.
Yeah,
not yet.
I think I don't know if this is right, but I think Principal would have faked that, yes, as a fear tactic, of course, to keep the rest of the sisters in line, but because she was playing the long game to get Watcher to kill Iris, like that was Principal's
her intention
all along. And since Watcher and Fixer were romantically involved, she probably knew that would emotionally manipulate her and ultimately get her to do what she wanted to do.
I think we find out either in the next chapter or the chapter after that the Fixer we saw in the communion with Principal
was not real. The Fixer. Yeah.
Nope.
Nope, it was not. That was essentially Principal.
Fake
Again,
Principal.
trying to push us towards this idea of killing All Mother because she
She's doing real
couldn't do it
Palpatine
herself.
vibes, man. She's just in the
Yeah.
background, like
She's
in the
like
background.
she's doing puppet shit. Yes. Now we're on a train with Healer,
all the old
Fixer,
school-
Bang Bang
yeah.
Fire, and Watcher.
Yeah, so which is exciting. Exciting that the whole gang is here now. Like everyone's together. I feel like we're so
Well,
like
not Knower.
well.
So Noah's not here, but do we? Is this next chapter? Is this the one where we have the flashback?
Yeah, so-
of-
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we
so
do
pretty
the
much-
communion with Watcher, and then we see the whole story from the
Yeah,
beginning.
this
essentially.
chapter is essentially the in between because we obviously had seen that what we just experienced has been years since the events prior to chapter 5, and now this is kind of seeing what happened right after Watcher killed All Mother, and we get that context of Watcher's perspective and what happened and everything here. Which is crazy. It's is a lot that goes on. Watcher does get captured, and Nowhere is kind of the main presence that is watching Watcher being captured the entire time.
she's
the
so good.
interrogator.
Yeah,
She's so conniving.
and it's crazy to see. It's cool to see her like the slow decline because again we've talked about it before, but time kind of feels almost irrelevant because everyone can live forever, so it's hard to like pinpoint what time is, but you can kind of see Nowhere start off as just trying to help, and even before that's what she was telling Watcher, like you have a like Rick was saying, you have a roof over your head, your life is like fine, like why are you instigating things, why are you poking
She's
their
just
bear,
a
just enjoy it.
self-preservationist, right? Like she
Yeah.
does whatever she has to do to survive, to the point where I think you look in the bottom left, and I think we're in isolation for like 2 or 3 years as Watcher.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And to the point where I don't know if she believes what Principal is telling her or if she's just going along with it to kind of stay alive. But she kind of starts to like almost like preach principles,
You
like
can see her decline
stuff to us.
like moment to moment as it happens, as she's
Well,
like we
they're
can't see
they're
the events that's
drugging us
happening.
with something, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what I think it's the same drug that they use to do later that sustains us. I'm not really sure what they're doing to us, but it's very confusing because then Nowhere lies to us that Fixer hates us because like essentially we find out the Fixer's still alive as Watcher,
Yeah.
and we're like, I want to see Fixer, I want to talk to her, and then Nowhere's like, okay, I'll try my best, and then she comes back and she's like, Nowhere hates you. She thinks
Mm.
you're a liar.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? That's confusing. And then it's like, okay. And she's at the front of the lines asking for your execution, but I'm going to save you. And then that turns out
It
to not be
happens like
true
2
for
or
some reasons, which is
It happens
very-
like 2 or 3 times. Nowhere will just be like, "I lied to you, Watcher," and it's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, didn't see that coming this time."
Here we are again. I
Here
think
we
Ben, you
go.
nailed it. It's just like
Right.
she's just trying to it's all self-preservation, right? She's just trying to keep herself alive for the most part. And even at the end of this, it's really hard to parse what she's
Well,
what Noah's
she
intentions actually
cuts
are.
out her eyes. So I think that was just for fun.
Right. But now
Yeah.
I don't know, because part of me is like it's self-preservation, right? But then the other
Yeah.
part of me is almost like she enjoys this
Oh,
because
definitely.
she enjoys the manipulation, she enjoys that like feeling of being in power. And so she kind of manipulates the scenario, like, so she basically is like, Principal wants you dead, I have to take her something. And
Mhm.
you're like, no, and she's like, I'm gonna take your eyes. And it's almost kind of like it was almost kind of like framed as like I've done you a favor, like
Yeah.
I've blinded you, but you could be dead, like like I've
Which
done
is
this for you.
crazy.
I also think like Nowhere plays such like her role is such a passive role, and obviously just like collecting of information. And I
Honestly,
guess you have somewhat power in that, but maybe this idea
It's very
of
confusing
it,
to
though.
me. This whole
she knows
section.
everything. She
Yeah.
knows everything. She probably knows
more or
all
less.
of the dirt on people. Like she also hints that she knew Principal was gonna, because what I got from what she was saying was that like she knew Principal was going to basically relish in All Mother's death and basically try and take power in that power vacuum. So she was kind of like, this was bound to happen. I'm just doing like what needs to be done in order
Well,
for my
even
survival. Like, she's got no morals.
even when Watcher ends up killing Allmother, like that train was meant for her, and nowhere knew what Watcher was going to do at that point. She kind of assumed what was going to happen if Watcher took that train that was meant for nowhere in the first place.
She's the real villain, mate, and she plays the role really fucking
And then
well as
she
well.
dies,
That's
right?
crazy.
I can't, because like what happens? Okay, so let's go through it. You get blinded in one eye,
Yeah.
then you get blinded in the other eye, and
Yes.
then something happens where Bang Bang Fire and Fixer come in to the room where Nowhere is, and then they're like, "What did you do to her?" And she's like, "I cut her eyes out." And then they're like, "Why would you do this? Wasn't the plan. Why would you do that?" And she's like, "I don't know."
I think from Noah's perspective, she because she was playing both, like she was doing a
Yeah,
Mac from It's Always Sunny. She was playing both sides, so she always comes out on top.
Yeah.
But like from her perspective, if she didn't do something drastic like that, she would be
Yeah.
found out. Whether or not you believe that is, another conversation. But for her, she was just like, I didn't kill her. So like we
Yeah.
should be thankful. Like I was playing my part so well. Like you knew this would happen. What does she say? Somebody will always get hurt, and this
Yeah.
is reality and stuff like
Yeah.
this. So like depending on your position of like resistance and radical
You could've
change,
taken one
yeah,
eye,
maybe.
I feel like.
I mean, look, I'm
Both
just
is
gonna.
crazy.
I
That's
don't
not
want to
enough.
play the Nazi card again, but like, if you, if you
Clip that chat.
Yeah.
if you look at like the Nuremberg trials, like when all the Nazi Germans were taken to trial for the crimes that they committed, the most common defense of theirs was like, I had to do this in order basically to survive. And it's that kind of like card of like, if Noah doesn't do it, then Principal will kill her, and she doesn't want to die. So she doesn't want to do this, but she's being made to do it because this all powerful figure is kind of like forcing her hand.
You know what?
And
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, okay. Mine had nothing to do with what you're saying. It was just. I was
interrupted
thinking.
to be like, I had the thought of something.
No, it was like I was just thinking because it's funny because one of the last times Rick was on here, we did the video game villain draft. I'm pretty sure Hitler comes up in that episode too.
Yeah. But it's that kind of it's actually like a psychological sort of theory about like agency and autonomy and stuff, is like the idea that like if an authority figure is telling you to do something and you fear them, you will do it. There's a really, really famous study where the participants were under the impression that they were acting as a teacher, and on the other side of a wall that they couldn't see was a student, and they had to ask the student questions. And if the student got a question wrong, the scientist who was running the experiment would electrocute them. They would say, push that button, and it would electrocute them 10 volts, and it went up. Every single person on that study electrocuted people to what is considered a fatal dose that would kill some. They weren't a real electric shocks, FYI, but I think something like
This is the golden age of psychology. We need to get back to this.
Was that
That's
Stanford?
crazy.
No,
Stanford prison experiments?
Yeah, this
That's
was,
a different one that's fucked up.
Yeah,
That one's
that's
crazy
a
too.
different one.
That
That's
one's
my bad.
but it was in that era, and I mean that came straight out of like Nazi Germany and trying to figure out why people kind of followed the instructions that are given to them. And I think every single person went up to what would be a fatal dose, and 70 something % of people administered 240 volts, which was the maximum that could be administered. And it kind of highlighted this whole principle of like, if you believe in the authority enough, you will do what is asked of you, regardless of like whatever the intention, like whatever the consequences may be. And I think there's a bit of that with Noah, but I think it's kind of mixed in with partly enjoying it and also self-preservation of just.
I think so. I think it's like what Rick was saying, where like if you play both sides, you come out on top. In that sense, where Noah has to do what Principal is saying so she can survive, but then at the end ultimately helps Watcher escape, but has to make it look like convincing. That's why Fixer smacks her over the head with the wrench and everything like that too.
This is the Fixer like hit me, doesn't she?
Yeah, but then don't they mention later that they shot her?
Noah?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
As far as I know,
Vaguely.
No,
Noah's
she
alive.
stays behind to continue playing her role, quote unquote. I think they shot somebody, whoever was guarding, not Mauve, because of reasons, but
Yeah.
whoever was guarding, the BBF shot her.
You're right. There is like a gunshot that goes off because as we're seeing, the scene is happening in the dark because we're looking through Watcher's perspective and we can't see anything. We just hear things that are happening. So
Mm.
you're
Yeah,
right. I think a gunshot
I
goes
must
off.
have conflated those two things because I was
Yeah.
like, because like Nowhere was asking to get hit with the wrench, and then I just assumed they killed her because they're like,
Yeah.
"This bitch is crazy."
You just hit her before she finishes her sentence, and they're like,
Yeah.
"You could have let her finish." And he's like, "Oh, it hurts less if you don't know it's coming." And
Yeah,
it's like,
she
okay,
still has
yeah.
a purpose to serve,
Yeah.
right?
I am curious, and I kind of already know how you were feeling about this. You kind of touched on it, but this entire section also bounces between the parents and their perspective and everything too.
Mm.
I'm curious with the two of you, with Rick and Ben, how are you feeling about how this intentionally connects to the narrative that's happening? Like, is it fine as just, looking at the perspective of the parents, we could check back in on them, the slow decline of their relationship kind of splitting apart as they're stuck inside, right? COVID, everything, the disease that's happening outward, and how it directly connects kind of back to this narrative. Ben, how did you feel about this back and forth that's happening during this chapter?
I think at the time I didn't really make sense of it, right? I was kind of like,
Mhm.
why is this being included? I don't really understand. It wasn't until, is it the next chapter where we see basically All Mother having to live with the youngest and the youngest, or is that
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I think
No,
that's the
I
next
think it's this
chapter.
chapter.
Oh,
is it this chapter?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
it's all a blur.
There's a section where you are witnessing All Mother and youngest is knocking on her window and she's like, mother, mother, like the other sisters won't
Yes.
play with me.
Yes,
And
that's this
she
chapter.
goes to snap at her, and then the floating picture of Zhao is
Yeah.
there and is like, well, no, hang on, like, remember how your mother was, like, she's just trying to play with her sisters, don't be like that. And I think it kind of, it was interesting because it showed that kind of learned behavior, right? Like there's a lot of, how can there's I find myself sometimes, and I have to catch myself doing it, like snapping at people in my life, people I consider like close family and stuff. And
Yeah.
way I kind of attribute it is like growing up, that was very much how like my father was. My father was very sort of snappy with people, and he was a very, very short fuse. And so I kind of saw it as almost like Iris has picked that up from her mother and is now putting that onto the youngest, and then the youngest is now the principal, and she is now putting that onto the others around her, and it was kind of that whole like, not
Generational cycle.
that kind of
It's-
like continuation of it. I think it was important. And Rick said something in the Discord about Iris being nuanced, and this is when I started to see Iris as more of a nuanced character, when I started to connect the way that she was behaving with the early sisters and the clones to how her mother was with her father and with her. And it kind of made me look and go like, okay, like she was a bitch, don't get me wrong, but also a lot of it was kind of learned behavior from her parents and from the environment that she was in, and this like hostility that her mother had because her mother didn't want to flee Hong Kong, the dad did, and like it was that whole kind of like resentment about fleeing their country and stuff like that, and that kind of got passed down to
sure.
Iris, who passed that on to others.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest like regrets in my initial analysis is I did something similar to you, Ben, when like this game really lends itself to a Barthesian approach of like bringing like not death of the author totally, but like bringing your own learned experience to something. This game kind of invites that. And so my first playthrough, I had no sympathy for Iris's mom at all because like that's, I'm bringing my own stuff to that. But that's one of the brilliant things about this is it's showing you that generational cycle of how resistance can manifest in different ways. And maybe how we should learn from the previous ways because they don't all go the same way. And this happens when Watcher is making her announcement to everyone, the confession, but she goes off script. You see the dad sort of making one last final video where his resistance just eventually broke him, and he jumps off the balcony. He dies by suicide. It's heavily implied here. And so maybe this is a mild spoiler, but I mean, he says, I'll see you all again one day. I'm flying back to Hong Kong. Maybe we can all meet and have noodles again. It's like, come on. I mean, they're telling you without telling you. So he dies by suicide. Iris then when she is trying to resist the same exact way from her parents, she turns to violence. I'm going to punish those that
Mhm.
came before. And then you also get the same exact blocking, seeing that one by one. You see Watcher, or not Watcher, excuse me. You see Iris standing above Johnson the 50 dead, chief some of the
Yeah.
occupants. Then you see Youngest standing over the Jow dead. And then you see Watcher standing there in front of the All-Mother statue. And then you see Blue eventually standing there as well. So like this cycle is continuing. It's just being passed down and passed down because nobody has stood up and
Mm.
said, no, this needs to stop.
But it's also interesting
Yeah.
because it's like, I mean, not trying to get like too crazy deep or anything, but like most of the game is like quite obviously about like resistance to government, right? Resistance to like the kind of the authoritarian government and what they're doing. But also like, if you want to get like a bit like stoner thoughts, it's also like a resistance to change, right? Like
Yeah.
Iris, like one of the ways that I've kind of realized that I'm doing those things that my father did and I don't want to do that anymore is through seeking mental health support, through going to therapy. Like I've
Right.
kind of embraced that change, whereas Iris was very resistant to it.
Yeah.
And so kind of pushed it onto the next generation who were also in turn I mean, I can't imagine
Yeah.
there was mental health support in the orchard,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like
That's
it's
what
like,
they needed.
They need therapy,
They
bro.
need to transition healers
it's
to being
like,
mental
yeah.
health healers.
This episode's
It's-
sponsored by BetterHelp.
Not better.
it's
Oh, not BetterHelp. Okay.
no, they're quite bad.
Oh.
It's also
Cut that.
it's just it's like a different type of resistance, right? Like it's like if there's a resistance, you can resist the pressures of the government and being told what to do, but also like if you resist change, it just kind of enacts that cycle
Yeah.
and enacts it to kind of perpetuate.
Yeah, I mean, there is a resistance to not falling into the same cycle, right? Like in each of their own ways, each of those characters represented, whether it's Iris originally or Youngest or Watcher or Blue later, like they all are trying to change in their own way the future, right? Like they're trying to determine
Yeah.
like how to get out of this cyclical torture that they find themselves in. They're going about it in the wrong way,
Sure.
a lot of the time. I think Watcher has like misplaced, but probably the best excuse of being like, I've seen all of the evidence
Yeah.
and it seems like this person is real bad. And sure, she's being manipulated, but she is in her own way trying to like process through this reality that is built around her and like affect a change that is going to benefit everyone and like change society. And even then with the miscellaneous, right? Like they're revolting against this thing that exists around them in which they're trying to like change. They just keep falling into the same cyclical thing, but they all do it for very different reasons. It's not the same reason, right? Like
Yeah.
Iris is a very selfish, childish, singular person who has rage issues, probably coming from her mother, who seems like a pretty dog shit person overall. But the longer you get away, the more that changes into this idea of like Iris was not selfless, right? Whereas Watcher and Blue are these people who are doing something for a greater good. Iris is doing it because she's like, well, I'm a god and the occupants have blessed me, so
See,
joust us.
I mean, I don't know if I
think that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that either because we kind of get context to a lot of that too with her relationship
Yeah,
with
and
the,
that's the Zhao picture as well, right? Like she's eventually she realizes how terrible of a person she's been. So she's like, you could say, yeah, too little, too late, but because everybody's dead because of her. But like she's, I think a step forward, however small, is still a step forward. I mean, she's trying to repent in her own way, and I mean, whether that holds up for you, that's
I mean,
none of my
it's
business.
just when I thought about it, it's like the movie I Am Legend, but Will Smith kills everyone in the world and then is like, I'm all alone. It's like, yeah, dog, you did this. Like,
I think also,
yeah.
I think for me, like her relationship with the occupants isn't like I kind of get the impression. I don't know whether this will come up. I'm hoping it comes up in the next, like the final leg. I get the impression that almost like she is in some sort of agreement with the occupants whereby like they leave the orchard alone. Like it kind of felt like that scene with the youngest and where she's speaking to the picture of Zhao and everything is like almost like she kind of took on some sort of burden with the occupants, and she kind
Yeah.
of sees it as like, I was a dick and this is now my burden to bear.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like that's why she kind of takes on the role of the all mother, is the only way she knows how to protect people is through fear. So she brings on
Yeah.
this persona of being a god, of being all powerful, and
I
being like
mean,
omnipotent. And it's like, well, you fear me, you do as I say, and you will stay safe. And I think there's a
yeah.
truth to it.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
I mean, I don't know if we get the context of this here, but obviously you can see kind of the slow descent of Iris as she's with the original sisters and everything. Like you were talking about, watch her banging on her door and her snapping and everything like that. But just her doing everything that she can to kind of just keep things stable. And even with working with the occupants and everything like that, we learned they operate off of memories, and that's kind of
Mm.
how the idea of the communions happened, is just like this idea of connecting with one another via
Well, 'cause-
memories, and that's what she's kind of giving to the occupants in return for this like
and
power that she has.
there's a line that she says. I can't remember exactly what she says, but like she basically decides she's going to sit down with the first sisters and have the first communion. And
Yeah,
Zhao says something to her and is like, oh, but like, what if they see the truth? Like, what if they see everything you
yeah,
did? And she's kind of like, well, then they see it. And it's
yeah.
kind of like this, like, acceptance of her, like,
And
she's accepting she's got fault, she's done wrong, but she hopes that they kind of see that she has changed.
and
And like,
that's and
They
that and
don't
that's
have to
why,
like it, but at least they know, or
right.
something
yeah,
like that. I'm
And
sorry,
and
Jared.
no, you're fine. And that's why I kind of had this idea when we first when Allmother first is killed, when Iris is first killed, there's almost kind of like this like bliss to her where she finally sees youngest, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's been a long time, without her really knowing the context of the 1,000 years it actually has been, but does
mm,
has this more like regal demeanor when it's happening. And even at this point too, where she's saying like, yeah, my children will know all the terrible stuff that I have done, but at least they'll know. And she kind of has that acceptance of just like, I,
they
I
can
need
make
to
their
I
own
need to be
decision
I need to
when
be
they're
accountable for these things, and telling people this stuff I've done is my step towards being accountable. Yeah, sure, I
She,
killed the entire
she also did
population.
it in the most insane way ever, which is like, I'm going to banish the youngest, and they're going to create a society completely based around having communions about looking at all the terrible shit I did, and then that will be good for me. Like, it's like, what?
well, I think it's also kind of like, maybe this is just me putting stuff into it to make it make sense, but like the impression I got was almost like those clones were created because she feels that she was responsible for people dying, right? And she was immune, and they were created as a
Mm,
means to try and
mm.
find a cure. So she almost like owes them now. Like it's like their existence. It wasn't a choice. They didn't choose to exist. It's like they've been brought into this world because of
Well,
Iris, and so Iris is kind of like trying to give them some autonomy and trying to give them some sort of like,
My
yeah,
other question here is, because like obviously we're trying to be manipulated by Principal to kill all mother so that Principal could get revenge for
mm,
being cucked into oblivion by, trying to create a Jow in the worst way humanly possible. But like, did all mother actually take away the immunity, or do none of the clones have
right.
immunity, and that was just a lie that was like manipulated by Principal to be like,
Yeah.
oh, no immunity. Because, like, once again, if Iris doesn't have any powers, she can't really take
mm.
away their immunity. And
Yeah.
so it's just possible that the clones just, Iris is the only one with immunity. And it's
I'm
like,
also
okay.
curious now, because in this now future that we're living in, where we're following Blue, and that part of it, is the virus gone? Because during the play, the Iris doesn't have a mask on, right? Iris wouldn't have a mask on because she's immune, but the actor playing Iris is not wearing any kind of mask or anything like that. So
Oh, I
am I
didn't clock that.
assuming,
Or the
yeah, when they're
orchard is protected,
when
or
Principal's holding the actor, she's playing Iris, so it looks like Iris. She's not wearing a mask or anything like that.
she's
We have
wearing
to
a mask that's a
assume,
face.
Yeah,
like one of those ones that
Painted.
look like your face. But are we to assume that that's gone now, or was there even is there
mm.
like Kaiser? Was there even a virus, or are they
I don't
even
think
immune to
I
begin
don't
with?
think any of the irises in Old Town wear. What am I
No,
imagining?
they do, because Blue has one on.
There's something somewhere that's said about the virus not being an issue anymore. You saying that has stirred something up in my brain. I
I
don't
don't
know if
remember
I'm
that, but I know we have a mask on, and I feel like most of the residents of Old Town and above have one. I just noticed the
Mm,
actress that was playing Iris doesn't have one during the play. And so I didn't know if that was intentional or not intentional. And who knows? Maybe we'll find out in the next
maybe.
episode of this too.
We'll never know.
Um, there's also an entire like 5 minute. It's not 5 minutes. It's only like a couple minutes. It's like the live action scene that happens where you're like in the car and you're
Very
driving
jarring,
through
by
and
the
you
way.
see the
That was
city and
very
everything like that
jarring,
too.
yeah.
Incredibly jarring. I was
I,
like,
I could see it. I don't know.
Whoa.
There was something about I was just kind of like mesmerized when it was happening. I just set the controller down and I was just kind of watching it, and it was just kind of this like
Mm.
again this like
This is
blissful, peaceful
this is the
feeling.
first
Yeah,
communion, right?
loved it.
This is when All Mother is like,
Is
I'm
this
gonna
the
show you
memory
my
that she wanted to share then when she's talking about I
yeah,
want to
she's
share a
like, I'm
memory
gonna
with
I
you?
want to
yeah,
show
she's like,
you
I'm
Hong
gonna show
Kong,
you. Yeah.
Hmm.
a place that I sort of existed, I guess. I guess they left relatives. So I guess she had her childhood there. And then
Well, and if that's what we're seeing here too, it gives a very whimsical, like blissful experience as you're going through here too. And if this is through like the eyes of a child, then it's like, yeah, a lot of
Mm.
children either push down a lot of the terrible shit that's happening in the world around them, or again, just have this like innate kind of blissful experience where they're unaware of just the world that's happening around them, and they can kind of see the world from this perspective. I don't know. It was very beautiful. Like I kind of like that. I kind of just sat back and kind of absorbed
It
the
was also
experience.
it was interesting because it was like very sort of serene, right? Because it comes at a time where like
Oh
all
yeah,
of this heavy shit's happening, and you're like, just driving around Hong
yeah.
Kong, like it's
the
yeah.
How did
my only criticism, I think it's fine. It was just going from, and I've already criticized the environmental design of this game, which I will not continue to do. But going from the very like empty blank world to like real life, I was like,
I
what
kept
is
trying
that?
to like I wasn't sure if
Well,
I was
at
like, is this
first,
like
yeah,
really
at
good
first with the
graphics or
road,
is
you're
this
like, is this the greatest cutscene of all time? Did they figure it? And then you're like,
It's Unreal
oh no,
5.
this is just some blurry footage of someone driving on a road. And then you're like, okay.
I don't know. Rick, what are your high level thoughts on the kind of this part of the game?
I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, we're talking a lot about stuff in the game that is referencing real life,
Yeah.
analytical, so on and such forth. But the reality is too is like again, not everything has to mean something in a work like this. Sometimes it's just either to serve the story or because it's an artistic taste choice. And I
Yeah.
think that's you could make an argument here of how like yes, this is. I mean, we're going one generation back. It's generation. Everything is in reverse, which is showing that time flows both ways and things will always come back. You could make an argument for that. You could also just say that this is just an artistic choice. And I thought it was effective. Serene
Yeah.
is a good word for it. And you know, it's a taste thing. Like you can't tell me I'm wrong. I can't say that Kai's wrong for finding it jarring. I mean,
Hey, I
you
didn't
can't argue
say
with
I didn't
taste.
like it. I was just confused.
Yeah.
I was like,
No, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't mean anything by it. I mean, it's fine. I thought it was nice. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like a team like this is bringing a performance
Mm.
art background into it. Like this wouldn't have happened in like Claire Obscure or something like that. Which that's not a fair example. But like you know what I
that
mean,
would
right?
be
Like
jarring
this
too. Just Paris.
this
halfway through
isn't
the
like a
game.
quote unquote video game choice. I don't know.
Yeah.
No. I think I just kind of I saw it and I was like, oh, she's just trying to show like her children, quote unquote, like a simpler time. You know, a time
Yeah.
where they didn't have to live with masks and there was an outside and
Yeah. For sure.
things were a bit easier.
Yeah. So we start the next chapter, which is 8, which is the last one we have for this episode. And Healer is here. We're kind of getting the whole gang back together, but we learn in this initial section, we're on the train, that what we
Perpetual
just
motion machine, by the way.
what?
Like if it stops, it stops forever, right? Like
No, it's just they have to keep fixing it. The train
Oh,
was
okay,
never
right.
meant to run
That long.
in continuation.
Right,
So
okay.
Fixer is just constantly fixing the train to keep it
Yeah.
moving so that they don't get caught.
Yeah. But we learned that the entire thing we experienced was a communion with Watcher. That's what we were doing. We were in a communion with Watcher. And so we were seeing the memories of Watcher through her eyes via that communion. That's why at the end of that chapter, we didn't touch on it, but we kind of have some small bits of interaction with Watcher. You know, she has her blindfolds and everything like that. And that's because she was in a communion with us. Watcher, on the other hand, in real life is not doing so well. Watcher is
No.
in very poor health condition, and she's kind of being kept on life support in the back of this train. And the only reason we could talk to her was via these communions. And we're kind of on the run right now, running away from Principal and the Reds and Nowhere maybe. Yeah.
Trains go in circles, I imagine. Can't be that hard to find them. Just going
It's cool
around.
too because this retroactively explains some of the wild ass shit that we've seen. Like, why were there 4 secretaries? Well, it's because the
Yeah.
communions take a toll on Watcher's body, and she's been doing this nonstop, and this is the longest one ever. Why were we going round and round and round with Blue and Watcher switching names
Yeah.
and everything? Well, it's
Because
because
Watcher is
things are
falling
breaking
apart.
down.
She been huffing that goofy gas for too long, and now we're
The
Too much
island
oxygen
sunrise.
bar.
Too much island sunrise.
Yeah.
Really get to your brain.
But this is basically when we get told like Watcher is dying, right?
Yeah.
And this is when healer's like, you know, go say your goodbyes, go tell Fixer that like this is the time.
Well,
And
because that's the other thing is Fixer was angry at Watcher because even though it wasn't her during that initial communion with Fixer, Watcher did turn Fixer in ultimately. And Fixer is hurt by that, even though it wasn't actually her, but she's hurt by that.
Well, the explanation they give here on the train is like what happened is Fixer offered an eye or her eyes to Watcher. Watcher refused. Quote, things were said. And then now and then Blue's like, well, what was said? And BBF's like, I don't think that's for you to know. So like they're just on the outs because of that, which is compared to what you said, Jared, like that's such a stupid reason for a falling out, but maybe everything is just coming together and
I
Once
think
again,
it's sad.
gone.
they're all Iris. They're all petty. Like
I guess
Iris is a deeply petty, emotional, logical individual.
They'll get different versions.
Like same
of
thing with
that.
Fixer. Fixer's like, fuck you, bitch. I don't care that you die. It's like, I mean, obviously she does eventually. She's crying on the platform when she goes. But they all are this person who is clearly has some emotional issues that need to be dealt with.
There's a line at the end of this chapter where, because again, Fixer's just being a dick and she's telling everyone to fuck off, but the healer's like, Fixer, you're a cold bitch, and I was like, oh,
She is a cold bitch.
Let's go, get her ass.
Because there's a bit as well where like you go and talk to Fixer, and Fixer's trying to fix the train, and you're like, Watcher's gonna die, and Fixer's like, I don't care, and you're like, no, like it's now or never, and she's like, yeah, I've been told that before.
She's
like,
like,
no,
you're all
now or
dramatic.
never. Yeah, and then she's
Can't
literally
remember.
like, she's like, tell Healer I said fuck off. And you go back to Healer and you get the choice of like either like sugarcoating it or just saying it out.
I just told her.
I was like, say it how it is, and she's like, oh, Fixer said fuck off, and Healer's just like, yeah, that sounds like Fixer.
She's nothing but consistent.
Yeah. What are you saying, Rick?
I can't remember if you guys touched on this in the last 2 episodes, so sorry if I'm repeating you, but like this game is low-key funny at times. Like
There are
say
some
it,
funny
but like
moments,
every
for
so
sure.
often they'll like take the salt shaker and just sprinkle in a little bit of funny in there. It's I don't know, it's nice.
Well, yeah, the
it's
healer
got that,
cold
like,
bitch line to
deadpan.
fix her. I was like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
Fucking
it's got
fight
that
her.
deadpan cold delivery in it. Like,
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, Watcher is dying, and Fixer has no intention. I do think there's a little bit of like regret and frustration there too, because Fixer does have kind of a one-on-one with Watcher as she's essentially dead, and it seems like she's like mournful and angry, but angry at her because of whatever was talked about, but also angry at her because she's dead now and she lost a friend kind of situation too. So I do think that there's still feelings there, but they're, because she's also frustrated, they're just coming out as anger first and foremost too. So, which is sad.
This is when okay, what's gone?
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say this is when Healer is like, you can go and say your goodbyes, but like whatever you do, don't commune.
Don't commune with her.
Well, everyone is saying that.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you walk
don't
in and
be
immediately
careful. Don't tell her she's gonna die, and don't do communion. That's the two.
immediately watches like communion now, and you're like, no, it's gonna kill you.
Yeah, I don't know how
Like,
much like does Blue have any power against that? If Watcher's like, we're doing a communion, it's just
Not-
that's what
not
I
at all.
assumed. That's what I assumed. So
It's all secretary.
And
It's like,
she even says that afterwards. She's like I had no choice.
yeah.
And
But
that's when you get pulled
and
into the
now more zooming.
more
all
zoom in.
the fun mechanics. of
this
game.
time more than anything, like I really appreciated it because
This
this
should have
was.
been the only section like this. I agree.
I
This one
think
was-
It would have made it really effective if this was the only section. I think you're right.
Yeah. I think so, but like the idea of like a fractured, deteriorating mind is what I thought it was in the beginning, but now more so than anything else, it is what is happening. This is like Watcher's mind is falling apart here, and it's represented in that.
I didn't even put that together, but yeah, 100%. It's like
Yeah.
all the communes have like taken a toll, and
And
she
at least
literally has a fractured mind.
this is the first section where I actually failed to connect the things. Like this is the first time I fell and had to like redo sections
Mhm.
to try to figure out
Because
like
they're
where
not
to
all
go.
like
Which
in line, right? Like you sort of have to like,
you have to like go one way and then like go back the
Sometimes you have
other
to
and
go
then
backwards to
fall
go
on
back up and then
things
get
and yeah,
closer. Yeah.
which I appreciated. I was like, okay, they're doing things here because before it was very like straight path to
mm.
little platform that you land on. I'm like, that's not.
Yeah. I mean, I
And this
can
It's
I
entertaining.
I didn't have too much issues with this, but if I could see someone that was frustrated with this, if this was the only place in the game where it was presented, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I can make this it makes sense contextually
Yeah.
here." And I can see how it's too much to have it in the beginning.
And is this when we learn that there are 3 secretaries,
Yes.
and if we get them all together, we can do a mass public service announcement
in a
to
in a
everyone?
game that never says anything directly. This is the best section because they're like, there's 3 things, you gotta get the 3 things, and you're gonna
Yeah.
do a service announcement. It's like, thank you for giving me a goal. Finally, I have something to work towards. I
And this is
appreciate that.
also when we come out of that communion and principal basically labels us as fugitives and
Yep.
is like, you know, we're on the lookout for all of them. And now we're effectively on the run from the law,
Yeah.
but we have to, I guess, make our way back to the orchard in order to
We have to make our
get
way
the
to
secretary.
principal. She has the other
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is
I
interesting.
do.
Oh, sorry, go for it, Rick.
I'm so sorry, Jared.
No, you're
I
fine.
feel like I'm interrupting you and Kai in particular a
I
lot.
know. We interrupt
I
each other
um
all the
We're
time.
yappers.
Sorry.
Just go for it.
I actually, but before I get to that, Kai, especially after today's conversation, you might appreciate this. They have a line before they go into the communion. They're arguing about like, why weren't you doing this? Why weren't you doing this? And somebody tells Blue, while you were busy reminiscing with Watcher, some of us were taking things seriously. And the only line under that I have written is leftist infighting. But no, this in this communion, like I love the final scene of this is shot so beautifully when Watcher goes back into Iris's room and she's in the fetal position on the bed, and she's like reminiscing as she's dying. She's like, I've never been here, but I feel like this is home. It's kind of like she's regressing into the childhood. She's becoming the child within the womb, quote unquote,
Yeah.
the room, aka the womb of the mother. It's like it's
Yeah.
this whole acceptance of being like, this is where I come from. Actually, she is finally
Yeah.
what do you call it?
She
Confronting and
also
accepting the past.
she also
We-
occupied Iris's mind for so long that she
Oh, for
like
sure.
she
Yeah.
that lived
Yeah.
experience becomes her own, and she's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is home
We-
because it is Iris's home.
Isn't that something as well? Sorry, that when Principal took over, she banned the Watcher role, so there is no
Yes.
Watchers.
There's no more
anymore.
Watchers anymore. Yeah.
Which is funny because again, you go back to like the whole control media and controlling the narrative.
No one's watching the watch.
No one's watched anything. No, we were on the exact same wavelength, Rick, because that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Was the scene? I haven't pulled the video right up where she's sitting in the fetal position, where she's just like, "I've never been in this room before, but everything my body tells me that this is home." And it's just like you're right. It's like going back to that very childlike feelings. And even though these are just lived memories, you start to, like Kai was saying, Watchers in these for so long that you start to just accept them as your own, as you know that they're a version sort of you because you're a clone
and it's
of
her
this
only
individual.
experience, right? Like
Yeah.
she's completely non-functional outside of these communions that she spent. I think they said like 183 straight days just fucking goofy ass doing Iris role play. Like your mind is gonna break at a certain point and doing like okay.
The very last thing that we see with Fixer and Watcher before the train ultimately like stops functioning and they have to leave the train, and that's where our chapter ends. But Fixer is standing in front of Watcher and she just calls her, she's you little motherfucker, and then that's when
and then she collapses onto her knees and starts crying like a bitch.
She burns the
she
train
burns
down.
the
She says,
train.
I'm gonna make sure nobody can ever touch you again.
I was really confused because I thought she was gonna burn herself to death, and I was like, "Wow, that's a severe reaction." But then she's outside of the train. I was like,
She got out.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is where our chapters for this episode end. A lot of events, a lot of information.
There's a lot. We got a lore dump in this chapter.
We did get a lore dump, but it was good. I really liked it, and I mean, like some of you were saying, almost needed at this point
Mhm.
where we are with how we're feeling. But let's go around and kind of gauge, we kind of talked about how we're feeling about the chapter, but we'll do a quick summation of how we're feeling about the chapter and, kind of any thoughts going into the finale, any theories that we have. I feel like my mind's all over the place and don't know what's happening now, but Kai, I'll send it off to you first.
Great.
I mean, Ben can go instead if you want to
No.
mull it over. Okay.
I'm more hopeful now. I was
Okay, that's good.
I was having a rough first 6 hours of this game, and this is better. I still
Yeah.
don't think a lot of what they did at the beginning is forgivable, and it should have been like 1/4 of the length that it was. But here we are. This was great. This is good. There was good foundation. There was like the basics of storytelling. We have kind of like a hero's journey thing going on. We have an inciting incident. We have like a goal that we're going towards. I'm assuming we're gonna like have some failures along the way of getting to that goal. That's gonna be interesting. So like, okay, I'm locked in now. The whole parents thing I could have done without. Like, yeah, I get it. Like the mom's an asshole. The dad's soft. It's probably the nicest way to put it.
I was like, you used your one cuck for this episode. So you
Doesn't
can't do it
doesn't
again.
really stand up for himself very much, and like whatever. That's fine.
Passive.
I like a little bit more of the context that we're given about Iris and the reason that she has made these clones live this hellscape for so long of dwelling on her mistakes in hopes that that somehow makes them better, which clearly no idea of generational trauma, like living your mother's mistakes actively over and over and over again is probably not the most useful thing.
That sounds like
they need a family therapy session. That would be helpful. They just
yeah.
get
That's how
around
this
and kinda,
game's gonna
like,
end. It's gonna be a family
talk
therapy
and
session.
process, but I don't think that's in the cards. The themes are cool. I like the little thing they did with like the underground and the orchard and kind of that thing and the miscellaneous. Like that's cool. This is the first time I've like been interested in the world. I think that's also one of my criticisms of the game is like it doesn't really draw you into the world in a way. Like the world building is pretty like flat because once again it's all just one person repeated over and over again and there's an interest there, but this is the first time I felt engaged really in a way where I'm like, ooh, I want to know what happens next, and like I'm really into it. I'm hopeful. Once again, it really last episode I was like, I'm really hoping for like a big twist or a swing to like pull me in, and
was that here?
was there swings and there was twists, and I am grateful for that because I'm starting to now better understand people's appreciation of this game. I'm getting it. I'm like, okay, I see where this is going and I see why people like it. As far as theorizing on what's going to happen next, I'm assuming a pretty standard hero's journey of Blue
Take it down.
Goes, tries to get the secretaries. There's going to be like she's going to fail at first in some way. Someone's probably going to die. Maybe Fixer is finally going to die. And then, by some miracle, we excel in getting the secretaries together and we do this message out to all of the lovely Iris clones out there. And it's like, hey, knock it off. Stop it. Principal's bad. And then, we have some utopic society where you have like the classic scene of like the door opening into the world where you break free of the old past and into a new hopeful future of whatever exists outside that. Maybe they go to Hong Kong. Who knows? I think they're in Toronto, so it's going to be a little bit of a journey to get there, but they go out into the world and do whatever they want to do.
I can see this ending with like we're going to the other side and it just opens doors to white and then it just cuts to credits there.
Yeah.
Like there's not going to be any kind of like idea of what the other side is.
Or there's going to be a very jarring FMV of like squirrels in a Hong Kong park somewhere and you're going to be like, whoa, that's what they experience.
That's fine with me.
Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Benji, how about you? Kind of a quick summation of this chapter, and do you have any theories going into the final chapter episode?
A quick summation. This was, I think, in all honesty, as much as I was enjoying my time and I was kind of thinking a little bit more about the deep theme, like thinking deeply about the themes of what was going on. I felt like in earlier legs, that was me kind of justifying almost like what people have told me about the game and how good the game is and stuff like that. I feel like this lore dump was very much needed. I think if we're talking, pace-wise, it probably could have been a little bit earlier. But I think it has ironed out a lot of stuff. It's got me thinking about a lot of stuff differently. I think there's some kind of occupant fin, because something I've noticed is like, I don't know if it's just Iris, but every time that Iris talks to someone, like the secretary floats over to them, which
Mhm.
is how we communed with the occupants, which makes me think that
Mm.
there's some sort of occupant lineage with, I don't know if it's just with Iris or if it's
Like
with
living
all of the
within
clones,
all
or
of us.
well, because the only way that Iris can communicate with people is through secretary flying to the person she's communicating with. Like when you look, like when you think back and over the gameplay of the previous legs, whenever you run past someone, secretary flies over their head, and then you get the option to talk with them, and then the only way you're able to talk with them is through secretary. So it kind of hinted at some sort of like, I don't know if like the deal that she has made, or like one of them has made a deal with an occupant, and then they are like now an occupant who is like in Iris form or something. I don't know.
Oh,
The
interesting.
three of you continue to prove that I am the least perceptive on the call because it took me 3 playthroughs before I noticed that.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
like
Well,
it flies over their heads when you talk to people.
and it's only
I'm
when
the
you
same
play
way.
as Watcher as well. I don't think Blue did it because Blue didn't have a secretary.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm suspecting some kind of Shyamalan twist as to like, I think Iris definitely made some sort of deal with the occupants. I don't know what that deal is specifically, but she definitely made some sort of deal for the good of the orchard. Um, I would suspect that Principal had her fingers in the killing of Bartender as well, because she knew that
Mm.
we were close to Bartender, and so by killing Bartender as this sacrificial lamb, we would then ascend to where we wanted to be, which was to the upstairs in the
It's all part of the
orchard.
plan.
And then she knew that we would be annoyed because Bartender had been murdered, and we would. I think her not being at the play was a deliberate move. I think she knew somehow that something was going to happen, and so she didn't attend in order to basically survive and have. She now have these other ministers who are now these martyrs, and she can say, "Well, look what they've done. Look what the Jows have done. Like, this is all kind of again this villainization of these sort of resistance members."
Mm.
Um, Part of me kind of wants it to be like a hero's fin where like they take down Principal, and then
Kind of very
there's
straightforward
no
cut.
there's no kind of ranks anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be one of these 6 roles. You can kind of just be yourself, and you can live in this society. But then also part of me wonders if it will kind of be this self-fulfilling prophecy where Noah actually ends up taking over the power vacuum that's caused when we kill Principal. So we kill Principal, that causes this gap in power. Noah then comes into power and kind of takes over and becomes the new minister, whatever she wants to call herself. So I think it could go 2 ways. I think it could either be as like a cautionary tale to like continually perpetuating circumstances, or it could be some sort of statement on like the ability to band together and to resist and to create change and stuff like that. So I
Mm.
honestly think it could go either way.
Yeah, interesting. That your theory had my mind spinning because now I'm like, I could see kind of that happening and the idea of like an occupant or a version of occupants living within the community and what that means for everything
I
too.
mean,
But
what better way would there be for shit? It makes sense now. Fucking hell. The Watcher, well, the whole purpose of the Watcher is to live through memories, right? They
yeah,
commune. That's the whole kind of purpose. And if that's what the occupants want, it would make sense that they like it would all kind of tie together. Yeah, I think
mm,
there's some sort of occupant shenanigans going on
interesting. Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. For me, I think Matt had mentioned this in our last episode where when they play a game, they get pretty, engrossed into the world. And I think that was me. Like I was kind of on board immediately. Like the first section of this had hooked me, and I was there. But I mean, this section more than anything has really kind of just like hit the gas on theories and big events that are happening. Where I love a good twist and a turn, seeing Fixer being alive, seeing everything happening with Watcher, the reveal that we were in a communion the whole time. Like all that stuff is great, and I love a game. And Rick had brought up, things like Kentucky Route Zero, Disco Elysium. Both of those games are similar to this in the sense of I had so many times where I just put down the controller and just like theory crafted and was just like breaking down within myself what's happening. And this happens so much in this game where I'll just pause and be like, okay, wait, hold on, hold on. If this happens, what does it mean for this? And if this is happening, like I just kind of theory craft in the moment as it's happening. And I love games like that kind of force me to not have as much of a passive role, because that happens sometimes I think with video games, which is fine, where I just kind of like turn my brain off and play pretty games, shoot things, which is
Mhm.
fine. But a game where I can kind of sit down and just like slowly unpack everything that's happening, not only in the game but how I'm feeling about that, I love. So like any game that can do that is a game that's already going to be high up on my list. So I'm so excited to see where the rest of this game goes. I can see Kai's theory in the sense of it being kind of the hero's journey. I can see Ben's where it's like maybe like a cautionary tale. I feel like this might have like a very ambiguous ending where we don't know what way it's going to go, and it could set itself up for being like, oh, this was like a communion the whole time and nothing was real, or things
I
aren't
would
right in
fucking
the
hate that.
things aren't right in the no, you would hate that. Things aren't right in the orchard, and it ends with something where it's like, oh, things are still terrible, but we don't get to know what's happening there, and it kind of just cuts off there. I can see it being very ambiguous, which here or there if you prefer that or not. But I know we are all of us are hit or miss on ambiguous endings here, talking about things like Kentucky Route Zero.
I can
But
do ambiguous endings. I can't do that everything was a dream. I
It
don't know
was
what it is that
real.
irks
Woo!
me for
It
some
was all
reason.
a dream.
yeah. So we'll see. I'm very curious. I love a twist. So more of what we just experienced here at the end, I'll love. So whether it's like characters coming back or characters revealing their evil or their occupants the whole time or whatever, I'm down for it for sure. But yeah, Rick, two things. One, I'm curious. Are you gonna finish your playthrough that you started for this game? And two, do you have any kind of parting thoughts and stuff for us as we're going into the finale here?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna finish it again.
Hell yeah.
As far as parting thoughts, I don't know. Like, well, one, I will be very interested to hear how each of you feels about
Mm,
the ending. Just based on today's conversation, I think you're all going to have very different takes on it,
perfect.
from the perspectives you laid out today.
Yeah.
I mean, what I love most about this game is whether you want to approach it just by immersing yourself in the world or by bringing something from your world to it, like
Mhm.
viewing it from an arts perspective, like my background, where I could care less about mechanics at all,
Mm,
like presentation and narrative. That's what I'm here for. Whether you want to approach it with like a very clearly well read and nuanced political knowledge like Kai, there's this game sets out a lot for you to bring yourself into it through these like shared human experiences like politics, like feeling othered, and then of
mm,
course like the cycle of generational baggage that I think everybody has. And I think like it promotes a slippery slope into verging into the territory of like, well, this is my experience as a fat bald classical musician, and like you can't tell me I'm wrong. And it's like, no, not all analyses like that are necessarily valid or interesting. But I think there's enough universality in this game that lets you bring a lot to it.
mm,
Like Ben and I had said, like with our family backgrounds, like you can bring some of that to it. I think that's a big part of why I like this game so much and why I'm really looking forward to seeing what else they do. For
mm.
me, at least, any future game from Sunset Visitor is going to be a day one buy. I'm the same as Sandfall with Claire
Sure.
Obscure. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. They I was hesitant to trust at first, but I think they earned it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you all
Yeah.
finish this series.
Yeah, I'm really I mean, I love those are the buzzwords that I love, right? I think when we finished Kentucky, to bring that game up again, I think all three of us had different interpretations of how that
Mm.
ending played out. Like and I love that. I love if we can go after this and we all three of us have like varying theories or perspectives on how this game ends would be great. And I hadn't really thought about it until you just brought it up, but there is so many different perspectives that can connect you to this game, whether you're trying to connect with it in, politically, like I said, bringing up this idea of connecting your own trauma to it or whatever. I feel like there's, like you said, there's a universal way for you to find some connection with this in some capacity. And I feel like that's something that's, I feel like, not easy to do with a lot of video games. Again, I think that sometimes it's a very passive experience. So I love the games like this, regardless if it lands for people or not, take strides towards having you connect it at in some capacity.
I don't think this is going to prime your expectations in any sort of biased way.
Okay.
All I'm going to say is I guarantee you will have different perspectives on the ending. It would be impossible for you not to.
Okay.
Interested now.
Well, that my interest is piqued. I'm very excited
We
for
shall
this.
see on the next episode
Of Dragon Ball Z. No.
Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z. Well, everybody, yes, that is all for this episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for getting to the end of the episode as always. Rick, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. After listening to you talk your episode on 1000 Times Resist, I was like, I gotta get him on to yap about
Nope.
this game with him. So.
Nope. Leave it behind. Stay here. Stay with this analysis. It's better.
in the past.
It's in the past. Burn it like all of the library of the but genuinely, yeah, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was a good time.
The pleasure is mine as always. I love talking to all three of you.
Oh yeah.
Thank
So,
you, man.
yeah, one more time for the people, let them know where they can find Pixel Project Radio.
Wherever you are listening to this fine show. And as I said before, finish all of this first. You got to. It's like your parents told you. See, generational. It's a cycle. Yeah, wherever you're hearing this.
Awesome. Yes. And links for Rick's show will all be in the show notes below as well. And if you're listening to the show, remember that if you wanted to catch the video versions of it, you can check it out on YouTube now and Spotify. Both of those places have video versions of the podcast where you can see our beautiful mugs and our faces, which is always a good time. In the next episode of the podcast, like I said at the top of the show, Ben is going to be joined by Kate from No Small Games, and they're going to be talking about doing a Get Wrecked where they're talking about the Artful Escape and Groon. I don't remember how Ben pronounced it earlier. He'll correct me in a second.
It's like run with a grun.
It's run with a G.
Run with a grunt.
So be excited for that. I'm really excited to hear because me and Kai played through the Artful Escape, and I think you didn't like the Artful Escape, Kai. I don't remember. Did you like that game or not?
I liked it.
Okay,
That's the one with the guy at the guitar who does
Yeah,
it was good.
The story
Why
of
do
my
you
life.
think I hate everything?
Well, I mean, listeners.
No.
You're a hot
There's
critic.
plenty of things that I like, and they know that.
I just couldn't remember. I didn't want to force an opinion on you that was untrue. So I was just, wanting to clarify.
He went 50-50 and he was like,
Exactly.
No, I like
If
that
I play
one.
both sides, I will.
We played that one together. It was
Yeah,
good. It was
I
fun.
like
It was a good time.
In the next episode of 1000 Times Resist, we are going to be finishing off the game, going through the last final chapters and kind of giving our overall review for the game. Jordan from Cognitive Clips is going to be joining us for that episode, again, to recap the ending of the game and to review it, which is going to be a good time. And also stay tuned to the end of that episode because Ben will be revealing what our next main series is going to be, which I'm very excited. I have theories. I don't know.
Ooh.
My theory is, just from context, I think we're playing Dispatch. I don't know if that's true,
Ooh.
but that's
Okay.
like a new game. I feel like it's choice right up our alley. You told Matt, and they said like, "Oh, that's a game I've been wanting to play," and I can see that game. So that's my theory. I don't know if it's true.
Spirit's trying to metagame right now.
I'm trying to
so-
metagame. Kai knows. I'm always trying to be like,
What's gonna
so
be
what's
Dispatch? But now I really want to play Dispatch.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to get out of here for the week. Again, Rick, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Listeners, thanks for listening to the episode and supporting as always, and we will see you next time. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.